Chapter 266. Boiling with anger, a figure was faintly discernible as he slowly walked over from the place where countless blade shadows overlapped. Countless blade shadows swirled in the air, their power seemingly able to tear the air apart. However, this figure seemed to be taking a leisurely stroll as he slowly walked over. What was even more bizarre was that on the back of this figure, a pair of enormous lightning python wings had unknowingly extended and coiled around each other, enveloping this figure within them. The countless saber shadows in the outside world were all blocked by this pair of lightning python wings. This figure was naturally Zhuowen. When Zhao Yuting's 10,000 shadow blade was about to reach him, Zhuowen had instantly activated his lightning snake wings. Although the main advantage of the lightning snake wings was its ghostly speed, it was still able to wrap Zhuowen with both wings. Its defense was also quite impressive. Although it was a little difficult to defend against the attacks of an Ultimate Emperor Realm expert, it was more than enough to stop Zhao Yuting, who was only at the advanced Heavenly King realm. How is that possible? This kid is not dead, and he seems to be unharmed. Zhao Yuting's pupils shrank as he exclaimed in disbelief. Even Zhao Xuanwu and Zhao Wenqian, who had been worried about Zhuowen's safety, could not help but suck in a breath of cold air when they saw the figure amidst the thousands of saber shadows. They were very clear about the power of the heaven-bearing saber technique, especially after Zhao Yuting used the last move of the heaven-bearing saber technique, the 10,000 shadow saber technique. Its power was so terrifying that it could injure a martial artist at the peak of the Heavenly King realm. However, the youth in front of them, whose cultivation was only at the profound Earth King realm, not only did he not die under the 10,000 shadow saber technique, but he even walked over leisurely as if those terrifying saber shadows were nothing more than a drizzle. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Your 1,000 shadow blade didn't kill me. It didn't even scratch a single hair on my body. Are you sure this is your strongest move? All of a sudden, Zhuowen came to a halt. Soon after, the lightning serpent wings that wrapped around him suddenly spread open. Countless lightning bolts swirled in the air, turning the area within 30 feet of his body into a lightning domain. Under the impact of the lightning energy, the countless blade shadows completely collapsed into nothingness. Soon after, Zhuowen's calm and somewhat delicate face was revealed. Impossible. You're just an insignificant Earth King realm martial artist. How could you break my 1,000 shadow saber? Zhao Yuting came back to his senses, and he suddenly seemed to have lost his soul. So noisy. A trace of impatience flashed across Zhuowen's face. With a gentle flap of the lightning snake wings on his back, he transformed into a thunderbolt and arrived in front of Zhao Yuting in an instant. The demon moon dragon spine spear in his right hand was suddenly swung. It was accompanied by an endless amount of spear light as it shot towards Zhao Yuting's head. It's not that easy to kill me. Zhao Yuting also felt Zhuowen's sharp spear aura and immediately sobered up. A trace of ruthlessness flashed in his eyes as he tightened his grip on the hilt of his saber and instantly swung out countless saber shadows. 1,000 shadow saber. I don't believe that you can block my 1,000 shadow saber at such a close distance. Clang clang clang. The endless saber shadows were like a barrier once again, instantly enveloping Zhuowen. Humph. Watch how I break your 1,000 shadow saber this time. Zhuowen coldly snorted. He bit his thumb and rubbed it on the demon moon dragon spine spear. The ink-black spear body instantly turned into a rich blood-red color. Demon Moon Secret Manual, Blood Moon Soul Reaping, break, break. Zhuowen roared. His voice was loud and clear like a great bell that resounded throughout the entire courtyard. A blood-red full moon suddenly appeared behind Zhuowen's back. A thick bloody aura also spread out. With a thrust of his spear, it was as if the entire blood moon was crushing everything as it directly smashed against the 10,000 blade shadows. Bang! 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 Numerous intense explosion-like loud noises resounded unceasingly over every corner of the courtyard. Soon after, everyone was shocked to discover that the blood-colored full moon in midair and the 10,000 blade shadows were only in a deadlock for the blink of an eye. After which, an ear-piercing cracking sound appeared. Subsequently, the 10,000 blade shadows, which were like a boundary, were shattered in an instant. The countless number of blade shadows disappeared like illusions. Swoosh! After the 10,000 blade shadows were broken, Zhuowen stomped his foot. His right hand extended out like a poisonous snake and grabbed the blood-red long spear in the air. Then, he suddenly swept it out. The long spear was like a long whip as it viciously struck Zhao Yuting's chest. Plop! Before Zhao Yuting could recover, the blood spear directly smashed into his chest. A mouthful of fresh blood spurted out like raindrops. His entire body was directly sent flying. He rolled on the ground for over 10 meters before he came to a stop after colliding with a wall. The scene immediately became silent. Regardless of whether it was the Zhao family members, Zhao Xuanwu and the rest, or Zhao Yuting's guards, everyone stared blankly at the dispirited Zhao Yuting on the ground. This was an existence that once called the wind and rain in the Zhao family. Am I seeing things? Zhao Yuting was defeated just like that. Zhao Xuanwu rubbed his eyes as he muttered to himself in disbelief. Father, you're not seeing things. Big brother Zhuowen has indeed defeated Zhao Yuting. Zhao Wenqian recovered from her shock. Her face was filled with an excited smile. Deep admiration flickered in her crescent-shaped eyes. Sigh. Truly a young hero. Originally, this old man thought that Zhuowen would suffer a great loss against Zhao Yuting. Never did I expect that the final result. Zhao Xuanwu gave a self-mocking smile as he took another look at Zhao Yuting, who was lying on the ground not far away with a dispirited aura. Zhuowen's strength had once again greatly shocked him. Who is that young man? He was actually able to defeat Zhao Yuting. That's too terrifying. This young man looks to be only 17 or 18 years old, but his strength is actually stronger than Zhao Yuting's. Just how terrifying is his talent? Look, there's an Arcana Master's badge on his chest. He's actually a Grade 2 Arcana Master. The clansmen of the Zhao family, who had gathered outside the courtyard, stared blankly at the scene in the courtyard. They could not imagine that this young man, who looked to be only 17 or 18 years old, actually possessed such terrifying strength. What was even more unbelievable was that this young man's martial cultivation was so high, but his mental energy was also at the level of a second-grade martial artist. This could no longer be described as a genius. This was simply a demonic existence. To be able to raise both his martial way and mental energy to such heights, this young man could only be described as a demonic existence. Boom! At the same time, a skinny figure fell to the ground, smashing a deep pit in the middle of the courtyard. The violent sound immediately attracted everyone's attention. The dust gradually dispersed, and the figure in the deep pit gradually became clear. Then, the Great Elder's somewhat defeated old face appeared before everyone's eyes. The Great Elder's hair was disheveled and his clothes were tattered. He was like a candle in the wind, and his aura was actually even weaker than Zhao Yuting's. Bang! A burly figure slowly descended and stared at the first elder in the deep pit with an expressionless face. No one knew what this burly middle-aged man was thinking. Come back. There's no need to kill that guy. Zhuowen glanced indifferently at the Great Elder in the pit. After discovering that the Great Elder no longer had any strength to fight, he waved his hand and summoned the reverse spirit puppet back to his side. At this time, the reverse spirit puppet was in a slightly sorry state, but there were no visible injuries. After all, the reverse spirit puppet's physical strength was shockingly tough. Even an ultimate Emperor Realm expert would not be able to break its tortoiseshell body. Therefore, although the reverse spirit puppet's strength was only comparable to the peak of the Heavenly King stage, the Great Elder's attack could not hurt it at all. Moreover, the reverse spirit puppet's fighting style was barbaric, exchanging injuries for injuries. If this continued, even if the Great Elder was at the peak of the Heavenly King stage, he would still be exhausted by the reverse spirit puppet. The Great Elder was actually defeated. The pupils of the Zhao clan members shrank again. They did not expect that even the Great Elder, the second strongest expert of the Zhao clan, would be beaten to such a state. Everyone looked at the burly reverse spirit puppet with fear. Especially when the reverse spirit puppet obeyed Zhuowen's words, the fear in the eyes of the Zhao clan members all shifted to Zhuowen. Even the Great Elder had beaten up this mysterious middle-aged man, but now he was actually so obedient to the youth. Everyone knew that the truly terrifying one was the youth in front of them. Whoosh! In an instant, he arrived in front of Zhao Yuting. Zhuowen stepped on his chest with his right foot and stared at Zhao Yuting with narrowed eyes. Tell me the true cause of my aunt's death, and I can let you die a quick death. Poochie. Zhao Yuting spat out another mouthful of blood, but he laughed out loud and said, "You're called Zhuoan, and your surname is also Zhuo. It seems that you're Zhuo Meijin's junior. No wonder you wanted to ask about Zhuo Meijin's cause of death. It's a pity that I didn't connect you and Zhuo Meijin together. Don't talk nonsense. Hurry up and tell me the cause of my aunt's death. I don't like to say the same thing several times." Once again stepping on Zhao Yuting's chest, Zhuowen's voice became incomparably cold. His eyes were filled with a terrifying killing intent. Hee. You must have some guesses, right? Your aunt didn't suddenly die of a serious illness. Anyway, I'm going to die, so why should I tell you? You can take your time guessing. Haha. Zhao Yuting laughed maniacally. He knew that he was completely done for, and there was no way for him to make a comeback. Even if Zhuoan did not kill him, Zhao Xuanwu would not let him off. You don't want to say it? Do you really think that I have no way of dealing with you? Since I'm an arcana master, I'm naturally proficient in the way of the soul. If you don't want to say it, I'll extract your soul and search it. At that time, the truth will naturally surface, and your soul will be consigned to eternal damnation. You won't be able to reincarnate, and you'll be tormented like hell for all eternity. Soul searching was a rather sinister mental technique. Zhuoan had seen this secret technique in the myriad detection scripture before. Once this secret technique was used, the target would basically become an idiot. In serious cases, their soul would scatter. Moreover, the caster would also suffer from certain side effects. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Zhuoan did not want to use this secret technique. Hearing this, Zhao Yuting's face immediately revealed a look of fear. Evidently, he had also heard of this sinister secret technique. I'll talk. Zhao Yuting's entire body trembled. Your aunt did not suddenly die. She was killed by me. His entire body trembling, Zhuowen's eyes widened. He gritted his teeth and said, "Why did you kill her? She was already married to you. Why did you do it?" Bang. Chapter 267. The truth, because she was born in the yin year, yin month, yin day, yin hour. Otherwise, why do you think I, as the young master of the Zhao family, would marry a nobody from a small family? Zhao Yuting sneered as he wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. A girl born in the yin year, yin month, yin day, yin hour? Zhao Yuting, you actually used the family's taboo technique. No wonder your cultivation improved so quickly in the past 10 years, even catching up to me. Zhao Xuanwu's face turned ugly when he heard this. Uncle, tell me what the taboo technique is. The rage in Zhuo Wen's heart grew even more intense, and the killing intent in his eyes grew even more intense. Zhuo Meijin was a member of the Zhuo family, and one of the few relatives Zhuo Wen had left. Now that she had personally heard that her relative had been killed, she was naturally furious. Zhao Xuanwu hesitated for a moment and sighed. Originally, this taboo technique was our Zhao clan's secret. Since this matter involves brother Zhuowen's aunt, I'll make an exception and tell you about it. Our Zhao family has a taboo technique called absolute frost. After successfully cultivating this secret technique, it can completely change a cultivator's physique. It can expand the cultivator's meridians and dantian by many times, increasing the efficiency of yuan qi absorption. Naturally, one's cultivation will also increase rapidly. 10 years ago, Zhao Yuting's cultivation was only at the half-step human king realm. However, it only took him 10 years to reach the heavenly king realm. This speed defied common sense. After all, his aptitude was not very good in the family. Of course, it was also because of his poor aptitude that the previous family head did not pass the position of family head to him. At this point, Zhao Xuanwu glanced at the dispirited Zhao Yuting. A trace of pity flashed through his eyes. The dignified young master of the Zhao clan did not inherit the position of the Zhao clan's patriarch. This could be considered a great joke at that time. Zhao Bingtian, that old bastard, I am his son, his biological son. He did not pass the position of family head to me, but instead gave it to you, a branch of the Zhao family. Because of this, I became the laughingstock of the Zhao family. Everyone looked at me strangely. That's why I couldn't accept it. Wasn't that old bastard because my aptitude was lacking? Then I'll practice the absolute frozen chill. In 10 years, my cultivation has indeed caught up to yours, and the position of patriarch is also within reach of me, but... Zhao Yuting's face was filled with anger, and his expression became exceptionally ferocious. Shut up. Did I allow you to speak? Zhuowen stepped out and viciously stomped on Zhao Yuting's face. The powerful force caused his face to swell up, and he spat out a mixture of blood and teeth. Zhao Yuting's eyes flashed with a trace of timidity. Sure enough, he obediently shut his mouth. With regards to Zhuowen's ruthless methods, Zhao Xuanwu felt a chill in his heart. After secretly sighing in his heart that he was lucky enough to be on good terms with Zhuowen, he continued, since it's a taboo technique, the price must be quite expensive. Among them, it requires the essence and blood of a woman of the yin year, yin month, yin day, yin hour as a primer. Brother Zhuowen, this technique is extremely ruthless. I'm afraid that your aunt's corpse may not even be left. At this point, Zhao Xuanwu softly sighed and looked at Zhuowen with some trepidation. He was a little apprehensive about whether the youth in front of him would burn with rage and vent his anger on the Zhao family. If that was really the case, it would be difficult for the Zhao family to stop the youth in front of him, other than the old ancestor. Essence and blood of the entire body? Not even a corpse. Good, very good. Zhao Yuting, you've done very well. Zhuowen's expression was extremely calm, so much so that it was frightening. He only spoke word by word. Swoosh. With a twist of his right hand, the Moon Demon Dragon Spine Spear suddenly shot out. The tip of the spear was like lightning as it instantly pierced towards Zhao Yuting's forehead. The expression on Zhao Yuting's face instantly froze, and there was only intense fear left in his eyes. Stop. A monstrous roar like a great bell suddenly whistled out from the depths of the Zhao family's courtyard. The strong sound wave almost caused the surrounding air to vibrate and boil. Zhuowen's spear momentum also paused for a moment because of this loud roar. However, it was only for a moment. Then, the killing intent in Zhuowen's eyes became even more intense, and the speed of the long spear became even faster. You're courting death. This old man asked you to stop. Didn't you hear me? At this moment, the vigorous voice had become even closer. Clearly, the owner of the voice was not far from this place. At the same time, an extremely enormous yuan power rumbled towards Zhuowen from a great distance away, in an attempt to stop his next move. No one can stop the people that I, Zhuowen, want to kill. Reverse spirit puppet, block him for me. Zhuowen's tone was ice cold. The long spear turned into a shadow in the air and instantly pierced Zhao Yuting's forehead. With a puff, Zhao Yuting's head instantly exploded, and red and white blood splattered all over the ground. Boom. At the same time, the reverse spirit puppet suddenly blasted out a punch. It was wrapped in an endless explosion of air and blasted on the yuan power that came from far away. However, what shocked everyone was that the reverse spirit puppet, which was showing off its invincible power just now, was directly sent flying by this yuan power and smashed into the ground. However, the remaining yuan power did not diminish. It swept straight towards Zhuowen like a raging wave. Wherever it passed, all the air seemed to explode. So strong. Zhuowen's pupils shrank. He kept retreating. With a wave of the long spear in his right hand, he once again used the Blood Moon Soul Reaper. A huge blood moon slowly emerged and blocked in front of him. Unfortunately, the powerful blood moon was like a piece of paper in the face of this yuan power, and it instantly shattered. This caused Zhuowen's heart to sink. Not good. It's the ancestor. I didn't expect the ancestor to make a move. When Zhao Xuanwu heard the loud shout from the depths of the courtyard, he recognized the owner of the voice. It was their Zhao clan's strongest expert, the Zhao clan's ancestor Zhao Qingtian. He was a genuine half-step ultimate emperor realm expert, and his strength was many times greater than the great elders. How is this possible? Doesn't the ancestor never care about the clan's affairs? Why would he make a move now? Zhao Wenxian's pretty face was deathly pale. Her cherry lips couldn't help but tremble as she muttered. The ancestor has come out of seclusion. I didn't expect him to make a move against this youth. This youth is in trouble. The ancestor is our clan's strongest expert. He's a half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm expert and is only half a step away. He can deal with a peak Heavenly King cultivator like the Great Elder with a flip of his hand. A half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm expert is too strong. I'm afraid this youth won't be able to withstand the ancestor's attack. All the Zhao clan members raised their heads and looked towards the depths of the courtyard. That was where their ancestor was in seclusion. A half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm expert? I refuse to believe that I won't be able to withstand this attack. Zhuowen snorted coldly. His eyes were filled with madness. Zhuowen clenched his right hand, and the Saint Rune of Ice in his right hand immediately lit up. Then, a blue crystal slowly floated above his palm. It was the extreme frost that Zhuowen had just extracted from Qiu Chou's body. Extreme frost was known as the overlord of all Earth-grade energies. Its might was not something that ordinary Earth-grade energies could compare to. Even an Ultimate Emperor Realm three-wheel cultivator like Qiu Chou had suffered greatly under this kind of cold. If it weren't for Zhuowen, Qiu Chou would probably have died. As soon as the blue crystal appeared, the area within 100 feet of Zhuowen immediately turned into a world of ice and snow. Endless cold qi seemed to have frozen this 100-feet space. Zhao Xuanwu and the rest had no choice but to retreat from the courtyard under the corrosion of this cold qi. They stood far away and watched from afar. Boom! Boom! That powerful Yuan power instantly reached the ice-snow domain. Soon after, an endless amount of cold air transformed into a violent hurricane that bombarded the Yuan power. In merely a quarter of an hour, the Yuan power actually turned into an ice sculpture within the ice-snow domain. It fell to the ground and shattered into powder. It was actually able to freeze even Yuan power. This extreme frost was indeed powerful. Fart! Zhuowen involuntarily spat out a mouthful of blood. Zhuowen hurriedly waved his right hand and stored the blue crystal into the Saint Rune of Ice. The extreme frost was simply too powerful. Its corresponding side effects were naturally extremely powerful. With Zhuowen's current meager strength, it was difficult for him to withstand the extreme frost side effects. My physical body is really too weak. I can't even endure the backlash from the extreme cold ice, let alone using the extreme cold ice to create an ice fire. That kind of backlash is probably enough to take my life, Zhuowen said bitterly in his heart as he wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth. With his current physical body, it was difficult for him to even withstand the backlash of the extreme frost. It seemed like he needed to get a body tempering technique as soon as possible. He blocked it. Zhuowen, he actually blocked the old ancestor's attack. Zhao Xuanwu's mouth was slightly agape. The shock in his eyes was even more intense. He stared at the skinny youth's figure with an expression of disbelief. The surroundings of the entire courtyard fell into silence at this moment. The pupils of all the Zhao clan members abruptly shrunk and their faces stiffened. They didn't expect that the attack of their Zhao clan ancestor would actually be blocked by the young man before them. Wasn't this young man a bit too abnormal? No wonder you're so arrogant. So you have some capital. Since you dare to kill a member of my Zhao family, you can forget about leaving our Zhao family alive today. A figure suddenly flew over and stopped in the sky above the heavenly mist pavilion. He coldly looked down at Zhuowen. To everyone's surprise, the figure was actually a black-haired youth. His skin was rosy and lustrous, but his eyes seemed to have experienced the vicissitudes of life. He was the Zhao family's old ancestor, Zhao Qingtian. Ultimate Monarch Realm cultivators were already able to see past life and death, and possessed extremely long lifespans. Therefore, when cultivators stepped into the Ultimate Monarch Realm, they would show signs of rejuvenation. Zhao Qingtian looked so young right now, so he was clearly very close to the Ultimate Monarch Realm. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. He could clearly sense the dense killing intent from the Zhao family's old ancestor. At the same time, Zhuowen could sense that the Zhao family's old ancestor was extremely powerful. If he did not use the 9-wheel incineration cauldron, it would be very difficult for him to survive. If a half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator is already so powerful, then wouldn't those who have reached the Ultimate Emperor Realm possess monstrous strength that can split mountains? Zhuowen finally understood the strength of an Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator. Thinking back to the Azure Emperor rankings that Qing Lian had mentioned before, Zhuowen also realized that there was still a gap between him and the peak geniuses of the Azure Xian Empire. Old ancestor. It's not what you think. It's actually Zhao Yuting. Zhao Xuanwu stepped forward and was interrupted by Zhao Qingtian before he could finish his sentence. You don't have to explain to me. Even if Zhao Yuting did something wrong, what right does this outsider have to kill a member of my Zhao family? If there's anyone to kill, it should be a member of our Zhao family. For the sake of our Zhao family's prestige, this kid must die. Zhao Xuanwu's face instantly flushed red when he heard this. He was furious in his heart, but he did not dare to say anything. After all, the person before him was his old ancestor. He did not dare to disobey him in the slightest. Kid, do you know your crime? A member of our Zhao family is not that easy to kill. Zhao Qingtian placed his hands behind his back as he stared coldly at Zhuowen below. Know your sister. Zhao Yuting killed my aunt. Is it wrong for me to kill him? You old fart, are you blind or retarded? Zhuowen sneered as he cursed unceremoniously. Hiss. Chapter 268. The sullen Zhao family patriarch Zhao Qingtian narrowed his eyes. The killing intent in his eyes grew even thicker as he said, You're already so arrogant at such a young age. What will happen when you grow up? Today, I'll clean up your family. Die. Taking a step in the air, Zhao Qingtian's right palm viciously slammed downwards. Boundless yuan power was like a scorching sun as it transformed into a giant palm that appeared above Zhuowen's head. A terrifying pressure descended in an instant, causing the surrounding air to flow in reverse. Zhuowen's expression turned extremely grave. Zhao Qingtian had clearly used all his strength in this attack. If he didn't use the 9-wheel incineration cauldron, it would be very difficult to block this attack. However, Zhuowen had some reservations in his heart. The 9-wheel incineration cauldron was an earthly soul treasure after all. If he took it out rashly, the other factions in Broken Rock City would be tempted. At that time, Zhuowen wouldn't be facing just the Zhao family, but all the other factions in Broken Rock City. A man's wealth is his own ruin. Looks like I can only use the 9-wheel incineration cauldron. Zhao Qingtian's attack is even more powerful than before. I'm afraid that even the extreme frost won't be able to block it. His eyes flickered as Zhuowen pressed his right hand on his Chenkuan bag, preparing to take out the 9-wheel incineration cauldron. Boom. At this moment, Zhuowen suddenly realized that the giant palm above his head had collapsed, turning into countless specks of light. Who is it? How dare you block this old man's path? Are you trying to go against our Zhao family? In the air, Zhao Qingtian's expression changed drastically. His gaze turned slightly as he searched his surroundings. He actually didn't know how his attack had been countered. Zhuowen's expression relaxed. He knew that someone had probably helped him, but he didn't know who it was. After all, to be able to block Zhao Qingtian's attack so easily, that person's strength was at least at the half-step Ultimate Emperor realm. Zhuowen didn't remember knowing any half-step Ultimate Emperor realm expert. The Zhao family is very powerful. Zhao Qingtian, you're quite arrogant. How dare you speak to me like that? A ghostly figure suddenly flew over from afar and headed straight for Zhao Qingtian. Zhao Qingtian was taken aback. Both of his palms struck out like a gust of wind. Countless palm shadows exploded in the air, emitting a dazzling 5-colored radiance. The powerful pressure even caused the space to distort. Petty tricks. The figure snorted coldly. With a gentle wave of his right hand, he easily broke through the countless palm shadows. His feet suddenly stepped into the air as he shot towards Zhao Qingtian at an extremely fast speed. Zhao Qingtian was stunned. Zhuowen was stunned as well. Even the spectating Zhao clansmen were stunned. Zhao Qingtian's full-powered attack, a half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator, had been so easily broken by this mysterious figure that had appeared out of nowhere. Ultimate Emperor Realm Expert? This senior, this junior has offended you just now. Zhao Qingtian's expression finally changed drastically, and he hurriedly changed his attitude. However, it was already too late. The figure arrived before him in an instant, and roughly grabbed his collar. With a twist of his shoulder, An enormous force instantly surged out. Zhao Qingtian was like a defenseless little chick, plummeting straight down. Rumble. An ear-piercing explosion suddenly rang out, and a huge deep pit immediately appeared in the middle of the courtyard. The Zhao clan members were shocked to discover that the usually high and mighty old ancestor Zhao Qingtian was actually struggling in the deep pit with his face covered in dirt. He looked extremely miserable. Swoosh. The figure instantly arrived in front of the crater. He lifted his foot and viciously stomped on Zhao Qingtian's chest. He coldly said, "Zhao Qingtian, are you very strong? Are you very arrogant?" Fart. Zhao Qingtian immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. Fear immediately surfaced in his eyes. Only an ultimate Emperor Realm expert could defeat him so easily. He couldn't remember offending any ultimate Emperor Realm expert. "Sir, let's talk nicely. This lowly one had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. Please spare me." The speed at which Zhao Qingtian's expression changed left everyone speechless. He had been so arrogant just a moment ago, but now he was all smiles. "Oh, you don't recognize me? Open your dog eyes and take a look. I've only disappeared for 10 years. Could it be that the older generation of Broken Rock City has already forgotten me?" The figure coldly snorted. He took another step and stomped on Zhao Qingtian's chest, causing the latter to spit out another mouthful of blood. You are Lord Qiu? You're actually not dead." Only now did Zhao Qingtian notice the figure's appearance. His face instantly revealed a look of disbelief. "Oh, do you really want me to die?" The figure's eyes narrowed. He stepped on Zhao Qingtian's chest again and coldly said, "This lowly one doesn't mean that. Lord Qiu is the #1 expert in our Broken Rock City. How could this lowly one dare to say such a thing? Sir, this lowly one doesn't seem to have offended you. Why are you so angry today?" When Zhao Qingtian recognized the middle-aged man in front of him, the corners of his mouth instantly turned bitter. The middle-aged man in front of him was infamous in Broken Rock City. He was extremely powerful and did not have any scruples when doing things. He did not even place the City Lord Mansion in his eyes. However, this middle-aged man was extremely powerful. Even the City Lord Mansion was unable to do anything to him. Furthermore, it was said that this person had mysteriously disappeared 10 years ago. At that time, it had caused a huge commotion in Broken Rock City. Everyone had guessed that this person should be dead. Who would have thought that he would reappear in Broken Rock City today? Furthermore, he had attacked their Zhao family for no reason. This caused Zhao Qingtian to be both shocked and fearful. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. He immediately recognized the middle-aged man who had suddenly appeared in front of him. Wasn't he Qiu Chou, who he had helped to retrieve the Extreme Zero Frost? Junior Zhuowen greets Senior Qiu. Junior thought that Senior had already left Broken Rock City long ago. Who would have thought that we would meet again? Zhuowen hurriedly walked towards Qiu Chou. His expression was extremely respectful. After all, Qiu Chou's strength was at least at the Ultimate Emperor stage. His strength was unfathomable. Zhuowen did not want to slight him in the slightest. Haha, I have some old friends in Broken Rock City, so I've been visiting them for a few days. I'll be leaving in a few days. The jade talisman on your body has the aura that this old man left behind. Just now, this old man sensed that something was amiss and immediately came over. Who would have thought that this clown would actually bully the weak? At this point, Qiu Chou coldly snorted and casually kicked Zhao Qingtian. At this moment, Zhao Qingtian's gaze was lifeless. He looked at the smile on Qiu Chou's face with some disbelief. He had never thought that Zhuowen would actually be related to this Qiu Chou. If he had known earlier, he would not have made a move against this Zhuowen. After all, Zhao Yuting deserved to die. Zhao Xuanwu, Zhao Wenqian, and the other members of the Zhao family were also stunned. The middle-aged man who had ruthlessly beaten up the Zhao family patriarch with a face full of viciousness was actually smiling warmly at Zhuowen. Everyone knew that this terrifyingly powerful middle-aged man was standing up for Zhuowen. This Zhuowen is indeed not simple. He actually has the support of such a powerful Ultimate Emperor stage expert. No wonder he wasn't afraid of the patriarch's threat at all. Zhao Xuanwu smiled bitterly. He stared at Zhuowen's back with a complicated gaze. Looking at the high-spirited and insufferably arrogant Cho in front of him, Zhuowen also felt a trace of boiling blood in his heart. He also really wanted to be like Cho, to do things his own way, to be free and unfettered, and to take revenge as he pleased. However, he also clearly understood that all of this required the backing of powerful strength. Lord Cho, this lowly one did not know that this young man was related to you, so I have offended you. I won't dare to do it again. I hope that Lord Cho can spare me this time. Zhao Qingtian knew Cho's character very well. He was a person who dared to kill and do what he wanted. If he really offended him, he would even dare to kill someone from the city lord's mansion. I'll give you two choices. Kneel down and apologize to our young friend Zhuowen, or die. Cho did not beat around the bush and spoke rather impatiently. This. Zhao Qingtian immediately hesitated. He was the Zhao family patriarch, a half-step ultimate emperor stage expert. He was a person of great status in Broken Rock City. If he had to kneel down and apologize to a brat who still smelled of his mother's milk, he could not afford to lose face. Moreover, there were many members of the Zhao family watching. You only have 3 seconds to consider. Once those 3 seconds are up, you can go die. 1, 2. Cho's eyes were cold as traces of killing intent gradually rose. Plop. Before he could count to 3, Zhao Qingtian directly knelt down and suddenly kowtowed 3 times to Zhuowen. He gritted his teeth and said, "Young friend Zhuowen, I, Zhao Qingtian, had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. I was blind to have offended you. Now, I will apologize to you. I hope you can forgive this old man." Hiss. The courtyard immediately became completely silent. Every member of the Zhao clan stared dumbfoundedly at Zhao Qingtian, who was kneeling on the ground and kowtowing to Zhuowen. The dullness in their eyes gradually turned into shock and disbelief. Was this still their high and mighty old ancestor? At this moment, he was actually kneeling in front of a brat who still smelled of his mother's milk and apologizing. "Zhuowen, I'll leave this old man to you to deal with. If you don't like him, I can help you get rid of him once and for all." Cho nodded and smiled as he stared at Zhuowen. "No need. After all, he is the patriarch of the Zhao family. If I kill him, I'm afraid the Zhao family will fall into chaos. After all, I have a few friends in the Zhao family. I don't want them to feel uneasy." Zhuowen shook his head and said, "Not bad. You are loyal and loyal. I like your character." Cho was stunned for a moment before he laughed out loud. "However, I just happen to be lacking a body refinement technique. After all, the Zhao family is one of the 4 great families in Broken Rock City. I'm afraid they have a good foundation." At this point, Zhuowen looked at Zhao Qingtian with deep meaning. "Oh, body refinement technique?" This old man remembers that the Zhao family has a rather powerful body refinement technique called the Jade Stone Body Refinement Technique. It seems to be a secret technique passed down in the Zhao family. Cho narrowed his eyes and chuckled. "Lord Cho, that won't do. The Jade Stone Body Refinement Technique is a body refinement technique passed down in the Zhao family. It cannot be passed down to outsiders." Zhao Qingtian was just about to object when his chest was kicked. He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. "Did this old man allow you to speak? If you continue to nag, I'll just kill you. When the time comes, I'll search the place where you are in seclusion and naturally find it. Tell me, is your life more important, or is the Jade Stone Body Refinement Technique more important?" Cho snorted coldly. His gaze became incomparably cold, causing Zhao Qingtian to lower his head involuntarily. "All right, I agree to hand over the Jade Stone Body Refinement Technique. However, Lord Cho also needs to abide by your promise." Zhao Qingtian lowered his head and said in humiliation. Chapter 269. The dowry left behind. Taking a deep breath, under Cho's stern gaze, Zhao Qingtian bitterly smiled and retrieved a jade scroll from his chenkuan bag. With a wave of his right hand, he tossed it to Zhuowen. "This contains the Jade Stone Body Tempering Technique. Keep it well, young friend Zhuowen." With a flip of his right hand, Zhuowen caught the jade scroll. Immediately, He unceremoniously used his mental energy to inspect the contents of the jade scroll. After confirming that it was indeed a body tempering technique, a smile finally appeared on Zhuowen's face. Furthermore, from the introduction of the jade stone body tempering technique, this body tempering technique was rather powerful. When one cultivated it to the highest level, one's body would be as hard as jade. It was said that one could withstand the might of a high-grade soul treasure. However, the requirements to cultivate this technique were rather stringent. It actually required a large amount of Emperor Yuan pills. Emperor Vitality pills were extremely precious and rare to cultivators below the Ultimate King realm. Even some Ultimate King realm cultivators would not have many Emperor Vitality pills on them. This was why Emperor Vitality pills were so valuable that they could not be bought on the market. However, Zhuowen was not worried. After all, he had obtained more than 100,000 Emperor Yuan pills in the ancient cave dwelling. Such a large amount of Emperor Yuan pills was enough to help Zhuowen cultivate the jade stone body tempering technique to a higher level. Sir Qiu, I have already handed over the jade stone body tempering technique. Can you let me go now? When Zhao Qingtian saw the smile on Zhuowen's face, he gently exhaled and cautiously said to Qiu, "Scram. Next time, if I see you trying to harm little friend Zhuowen again, I'll uproot your entire Zhao clan." Qiu lifted his right leg and kicked Zhao Qingtian's chest, causing the latter to fly backwards. Then, he slipped out of the courtyard and disappeared from everyone's sight. Zhuowen only felt a little amused as he watched Zhao Qingtian slip away in a dejected manner. Soon after, he cupped his hands together towards Qiu beside him and said in a rather solemn manner, "Many thanks to Elder Qiu this time around. If not for Elder's intervention, I'm afraid that this little one would really be doomed." "That might not be the case. Just now, when I saw that Zhao Qingtian was about to kill you, there wasn't a trace of despair on your face. Instead, you appeared exceptionally calm. I believe that you still have some trump cards in your hands." Qiu suddenly looked meaningfully at Zhuowen and said with a faint smile. Zhuowen's expression turned cold, but he smiled embarrassedly. Qiu's observation was quite meticulous. He was actually able to notice Zhuowen's expression at that critical moment. "Brat, I heard from those old fellows in the Arcane Guild that you will be participating in the Arcane Ceremony in 5 days. Qiu glanced at the Arcanist badge on Zhuowen's chest and suddenly asked. "Yes. I've heard that the rewards for the Arcana Ceremony this time around are extremely generous. Therefore, I'm hoping to give it a try and see if I can get a good ranking." Zhuowen shrugged and said rather calmly, "To be able to become a Grade 2 Arcanist at such a young age means that your talent is not bad. However, I still have to tell you that the Arcana Ceremony this time around is not simple. I've heard that the Arcane Guild branches in the top few supercities in Muqin County have all sent their own elites. It can be said that geniuses have gathered together. I'm afraid that it will be very difficult for you to get a good ranking in the Arcana Ceremony this time around." Hearing Qiu's words, Zhuowen was slightly taken aback. Then, he smiled and said, "Originally, I came here to experience the Arcana Ceremony. As for whether I can get a good ranking, that is not something that I can decide. After all, I'm still young." "Good. You have some guts. I did not misjudge you. I'm really looking forward to your performance in the Arcana Ceremony in 5 days. All right, I'll take my leave first. I still have a few friends waiting for me." After speaking, Qiu directly disappeared in front of Zhuowen. Looking at the empty ground, Zhuowen helplessly shook his head. This senior Qiu really came and went like a ghost. However, Zhuowen also understood from Zhao Qingtian's words that Qiu's identity was not simple. He was actually the #1 person in Broken Rock City. Didn't that mean that Qiu's strength was even more terrifying than the president of the Arcana Guild, Master Ku Ya? "Zhuowen, you." Zhao Xuanwu brought Zhao Wenqian to Zhuowen's side. His expression was a little hesitant, and he seemed to be hemming and hawing. What happened just now was too shocking. Their Zhao family's old ancestor Zhao Qingtian was actually beaten up by Qiu, who suddenly appeared. After that, he even knelt down and apologized to this young man in front of him. All of this made Zhao Xuanwu dizzy, and he felt that it was unbelievable. "Uncle, Miss Wenqian, Since Zhao Yuting's matter has been settled, I shall not stay any longer. Zhuowen nodded towards Zhao Xuanwu and Zhao Wenqian, intending to leave immediately. Although he had found out his aunt's whereabouts during this trip to the Zhao family, the result made Zhuowen rather angry. He did not expect that his aunt would actually be used as a cultivation vessel by Zhao Yuting to cultivate a secret technique, and in the end, not even her bones were left behind. This feeling of helplessness and anger made Zhuowen not want to stay in the Zhao family any longer. Wait. Suddenly, Zhao Xuanwu called out from behind. What's the matter? Coldly staring at Zhao Xuanwu, who had called out to him, Zhuowen's tone was already tinged with a trace of iciness. Zhao Xuanwu's expression froze, but soon after, he bitterly smiled. He could also understand Zhuowen's current feelings. With a sigh, he retrieved a palm-sized box from his Chenkuan bag and said, "This is the only thing that my Jin left behind. I have kept it for many years. Since you are her nephew, I shall return it to its rightful owner." His hands trembled as he received the box. The viciousness in Zhuowen's eyes slowly receded, replaced by a trace of gentleness. Gently nodding his head, Zhuowen said, "Many thanks." After speaking, Zhuowen took the box and directly left the Zhao family. "Father, do you think that big brother Zhuowen will be all right?" His aunt's fate was truly. Zhao Wenqian involuntarily asked as she gazed at the somewhat lonely figure in the distance. For some reason, she felt an indescribable pain in her heart. "Don't worry. Little friend Zhuowen is a strong-willed individual, he will not do anything foolish. However, for my Jin to have such a talented nephew, she should be able to smile in the underworld." Zhao Xuanwu's gaze was rather complicated as he muttered to himself. "What? You plan to return to Ratanama City now? Kid, Broken Rock City is half a month's journey from Ratanama City to Broken Rock City. A round trip will take you a month's time, and there are only 5 days left until the Arcana ceremony. Don't tell me you don't plan to participate in the Arcana ceremony." In the large loft, Grandmaster Kang Mu involuntarily shouted as he looked at the youth in front of him in disbelief. "Old man Kang Mu, don't worry. I will naturally participate in the Arcana ceremony. However, this dowry is the only thing left behind by my aunt. I don't want my aunt to suffer the pain of drifting. Only by bringing it back to the clan's ancestral hall will my aunt's soul be able to rest in peace." Standing in the hall, Zhuowen's face was filled with determination. After receiving the dowry from Zhao Xuanwu, memories flooded into Zhuowen's mind like a tidal wave. These memories were all about a cheerful, lively, and beautiful woman. At that time, he was still young. This woman had always been by his side, playing with him, making him laugh, comforting him, and taking care of him. Even though his father had gone missing and his cultivation had been unable to improve, this woman had always been protecting him. This beautiful woman was his aunt, Zhuowen. She was a woman who treated Zhuowen like her own son. She was also the existence that Zhuowen relied on the most at that time. "Kid, with your speed, even if you don't eat or drink and travel day and night, I'm afraid it's not very likely that you'll be able to return to Broken Rock City in 5 days. Can't you wait until the Arcana ceremony is over, then bring this dowry back to the Zhuo family?" Grandmaster Kang Mu said in exasperation. He was very clear about Zhuowen's current mental energy level. He believed that with Zhuowen's current mental energy level, even if he couldn't become the champion of the Arcana ceremony, he had a very high chance of entering the top 3. He was waiting for Zhuowen to win glory for him at the Arcana ceremony. Who would have thought that such a troublesome matter would occur? Although my speed isn't good, an ultimate Emperor Realm expert can. With that, Zhuowen took out a jade talisman and crushed it without hesitation. An invisible wave immediately spread out from the jade talisman. "Kid, are you kidding me?" The number of Ultimate Emperor Realm experts in Broken Rock City can be counted on one hand. These Ultimate Emperor Realm experts are all very arrogant. Do you think you can convince them to send you back to Ratanama City and back? Grandmaster Kang Mu rolled his eyes at Zhuowen and snorted disdainfully. However, just as Grandmaster Kang Mu finished speaking, an enormous pressure suddenly enveloped the entire courtyard like a mountain. Even the surrounding air seemed to flow in reverse, as if countless streams of steam were rising. What a powerful pressure! This pressure. Could it be an ultimate Emperor realm expert? Grandmaster Kang Mu's face twitched when he felt the enormous pressure that suddenly descended. His face was filled with disbelief as he screamed loudly. Whoosh! A figure instantly tore through the air and landed on the ground not far from Zhuowen in the courtyard in a few flashes. Qiu Chou frowned slightly as he looked at the excessively calm courtyard in astonishment. He turned his head to look at Zhuowen and asked doubtfully, "Little friend Zhuowen, this old man just left not long ago and you already crushed the jade talisman? Also, from the looks of it, you didn't encounter any danger. Why did you crush the jade talisman?" Grandmaster Kang Mu's mouth was slightly agape as he stared at Qiu Chou in disbelief. He could feel the enormous pressure emanating from the middle-aged man before him. This pressure had already far surpassed that of an ordinary Ultimate Emperor realm expert. He had once been fortunate enough to meet the city lord of Broken Rock City, Ouyang Yuntu. Ouyang Yuntu was a genuine Ultimate Emperor realm expert with monstrous strength. However, Kang Mu could feel that Ouyang Yuntu's aura wasn't even a tenth of the man before him. In other words, the middle-aged man before him was at least a Ultimate Emperor realm expert. Chapter 270. Zhuowen's gaze was extremely calm as he revealed his objective, causing Qiu Chou to look at him with a strange expression. "You called me over just to bring you to Rattan Armor City? Is it that simple?" Qiu Chou's face twitched as his tone became rather strange. "My grandfather is most anxious to know about my aunt's whereabouts. Since we have already found out, I must inform him as soon as possible. He has been waiting for this for 10 years and I don't want him to wait too long. Moreover, I will feel uneasy if my aunt's belongings are not properly taken care of." Zhuowen's gaze was rather dim as he spoke indifferently. "Little friend Zhuowen is indeed a man of character. However, I must remind you that since you have crushed the jade talisman, your only chance to ask for my help has been used up." Qiu Chou's gaze flickered as he spoke indifferently. "Junior understands. Senior, please set off quickly. Junior does not have much time." Zhuowen nodded as he spoke seriously. Qiu Chou was never one to drag things out. The only thing he could do was nod his head. With a wave of his right hand, powerful yuan power was applied to the feet of the two. Soon after, Zhuowen followed Qiu Chou and floated in the air. With a swoosh, the two of them transformed into two streaks of light and disappeared from the courtyard. Sigh. I am finding it harder and harder to see through this little fellow Zhuowen. He has only been in Broken Rock City for a few days and he already knows such a powerful Ultimate Emperor stage expert. What is even more unbelievable is that this expert actually agreed to help Zhuowen. Grandmaster Karaki could not help but mutter to himself as he gazed at the streaks of light that disappeared into the horizon. I hope that this little fellow can hurry up and make it in time for the Arcana ceremony. I am really looking forward to his performance. Swoosh, swoosh. High up in the sky, two figures flashed past like shooting stars, causing the surrounding air to emit a tearing sound. A trace of excitement flashed across Zhuowen's face as he gazed at the ground below that had almost turned into a black dot. Once a cultivator reached the Ultimate Emperor stage, they would be able to walk through the air as though it was flat ground. A single step would cover a distance of 10,000 miles. It could be said that they had truly reached the realm of freedom. Senior Qiu. With our current speed, how long will it take to reach Rattan Armor City? Zhuowen suddenly turned to Qiu Chou and asked. About 2 days. My speed is much faster than the average Ultimate Emperor realm expert. 2 days should be the best estimate. Qiu Chou smiled faintly. 2 days. It seems that time is rather tight. Zhuowen mumbled in a low voice. There was a trace of worry on his face. He didn't know if he would be able to make it in time for the Arcana ceremony. 2 days later, Rattan Armor City was still bustling with activity as usual. There was an endless stream of people on the streets, and many of the markets were established. These markets basically belonged to the Zhuo family, the #1 power in Rattan Armor City. The strength of the Zhuo family was already deeply ingrained in the hearts of the people. Compared to the city lord's mansion, some cultivators were even more afraid of the Zhuo family. Rumors of Zhuoan slaughtering 1,000 cultivators by himself outside the primordial cave dwelling had already spread like wildfire in Ratanama city. It had even become a household name. Everyone knew that the Zhuo family had a ruthless person called Zhuoan. Zhuoan's legendary battles were also deeply ingrained in the hearts of the people. Everyone couldn't help but fear the Zhuo family. Within the city lord's mansion, Jiyu Tian was going through some documents. At this moment, he suddenly raised his head to look at the sky. There was a trace of shock in his eyes. What a powerful aura. This aura, could it be an ultimate Emperor Realm expert? Crack. A crisp sound immediately rang out. Due to using too much force, the brush in Jiyu Tian's hand was actually broken. However, he still didn't feel anything. I have to go out and take a look. It's not a good thing for an expert to descend upon our small city. Jiyu Tian recalled the scene of the battle between Aoki and Ba Shui when they descended upon Ratanama city. That kind of power had almost destroyed Ratanama city. Swoosh. In an instant, Jiyu Tian disappeared. In a short while, he arrived at the top of the city gates. His gaze was grave as he looked at the horizon in the distance. There, two black figures were rapidly rushing over. Big brother, what's going on? I felt an extremely powerful pulse of energy earlier. Could it be? A middle-aged man in long black robes also arrived beside Jiyu Tian. He raised his head and stared at the horizon in a rather serious manner. This middle-aged man was the Vice City Lord of Ratanama City. He was also Jiyu Tian's younger brother, Jiyu Lai. Speaking of which, Jiyu Lai had some conflicts with Zhuoan in the past. However, with Zhuoan's rapid rise, Jiyu Lai no longer dared to oppose Zhuoan. He even faintly felt regret in his heart. They should be ultimate Emperor Realm experts. I wonder why these two sirs have come to our Ratanama city. I hope there won't be a huge battle like last time. Grandmaster Kang Mu isn't in Ratanama city right now. If there really is a battle between ultimate Emperor Realm experts, I'm afraid that our Ratanama city will really be finished. Jiyu Tian's face was filled with a bitter smile. It was very easy for experts to overlook a low-level city like their Ratanama city. To them, a low-level city was an ant-like existence. Stomping an ant to death was no big deal. Jiyu Lai's face also darkened when he heard this. His eyes were filled with helplessness. This was the tragedy of a small city like theirs. In the vast Muqin County, there were just too many small cities like theirs. Basically, they were living precarious lives. If our Ratanama city also had an ultimate Emperor Realm expert guarding it, we probably wouldn't be overlooked by other experts. We might even be able to become a medium-level city because of this. At that time, we would be able to obtain even more territory and soldiers, Jiyu Lai continued with a bitter smile. Jiyu Tian suddenly thought of Zhuoan's figure and his eyes immediately filled with envy. If there's anyone in our Ratanama city who can reach the ultimate Emperor Realm, then it would only be Zhuoan from the Zhuo family. That little fellow's talent is just too terrifying. Even now, I'm a little envious of Zhuo Xiangding's good fortune to actually have such a good grandson. Jiyu Lai also nodded in agreement. Even though he didn't have much of a good impression of Zhuoan, he couldn't help but admire the latter's great talent and strength. They're here. These two sirs should have extraordinary origins. We can't be careless in the slightest. Swoosh, swoosh. Two whooshing sounds suddenly rang out and two figures suddenly appeared on the city gate. At the same time, a suffocating aura constantly radiated from their bodies, causing Jiyu Tian and Jiyu Lai to lower their heads involuntarily. They didn't dare to look directly at the two people who had appeared on the city gate. This lowly one is Jiyu Tian, the city lord of Ratanama city. Greetings to the two sirs. This lowly one is Jiyu Lai, the vice city lord. Greetings to the two sirs. Jiyu Tian and Jiyu Lai both stepped forward and knelt on one knee. They lowered their heads and didn't dare to casually look at the two people. They only cupped their hands together in an extremely respectful and humble manner. City Lord, Vice City Lord, there's no need for the two of you to be so courteous. Quickly rise. A youthful voice abruptly rang out, causing Jiyu Tian and Jiyu Lai to be stunned. They discovered that this voice actually gave them an extremely familiar feeling. Could it be? The two of them abruptly raised their heads and immediately saw a slender young man smiling at them. Zhuowen? Are you really Zhuowen? Did you give off the aura of an Ultimate Emperor Realm expert earlier? You've reached the Ultimate Emperor Realm? The two of them could not help but cry out. When they recalled that the extremely powerful aura from afar had come from the young man before them, they could not help but tremble. Shock filled their faces. Wasn't Zhuowen just at the Earth King realm a month ago? It had only been a month since they last saw each other, yet the young man had already reached the Ultimate Emperor realm after returning from Broken Rock City. Wasn't this a little too unbelievable? You've misunderstood. Take a closer look. I'm not an Ultimate Emperor realm expert, but Senior Qiu beside me is a bona fide Ultimate Emperor realm expert with 4 wheels. Zhuowen pointed at Qiu with a smile. Qiu had originally been an Ultimate Emperor realm expert with 3 wheels. Ever since Zhuowen expelled the extreme coldness from his body, he had gained some comprehension and directly broken through to the Ultimate Emperor realm with 4 wheels. After hearing Zhuowen's denial, Jiyu Yutian and Jiyu Lai had already heaved a sigh of relief. However, when Zhuowen introduced Qiu, who was beside him, as an ultimate 4-wheel emperor, the two of them instantly felt a knot in their hearts. Greetings, sir. The two of them trembled and hurriedly clasped their hands towards Qiu. They were extremely respectful, but their hearts were in chaos. An Ultimate Emperor realm expert with 4 wheels. An expert like that was a peak expert in the entire Muqin County. His strength was probably even greater than the city lords of some super cities. They had never thought that he would come to their tiny vine armor city today. What was even more unbelievable was that this expert seemed to have come with Zhuowen. Since when had Zhuowen's reputation become so great that he could even invite an expert like that? With this thought in mind, the two of them immediately looked at Zhuowen with a complicated and strange gaze. Compared to Jiyu Yutian and Jiyu Lai, who were trembling with fear, Qiu was frowning. He did not care about Jiyu Yutian and Jiyu Lai at all. After all, one of them was at the initial Earth King stage, while the other was only at the Human King stage. Their strength was not even worth mentioning to him. What really made him frown was that the Vine Armor city that Zhuowen had mentioned was only a low-level city. Originally, he had thought that the faction behind the city that could nurture such a heaven-defying monster like Zhuowen would definitely be extremely terrifying. Perhaps the city he came from was one of the strongest super cities in Muqin County. However, he had never thought that the Vine Armor city that Zhuowen had mentioned was only a low-level city. To put it bluntly, Qiu only needed to wave his hand to completely destroy a city like that. This kid actually came from a low-level city, but his strength and talent have already left many geniuses in the dust. To be able to reach such a level in a low-level city that is lacking in resources, this kid can no longer be described as a monster. Qiu glanced at Zhuowen beside him. Although his face was as calm as water, his heart was filled with mixed feelings. If Zhuowen had come from a great faction in a super city, Qiu would not be surprised if he could reach such a level at the age of 17 or 18. After all, he had lived for an extremely long time and had seen all kinds of geniuses. Chapter 271. My family Zhuowen. May I know why you've brought this lord to Rattan Armor City? Jiyu Yutian stole a glance at Qiu as he spoke rather cautiously. He did not dare to show the slightest disrespect towards an Ultimate Emperor realm expert. I'm just here to deliver something to grandfather. Due to time constraints, I asked Senior Qiu to personally bring me back. After all, Senior Qiu can travel thousands of miles in a single step. His speed is much faster. Zhuowen smiled faintly as he replied in a somewhat absent-minded manner. When Jiyu Yutian and Jiyu Lai heard this, the surprise in their eyes grew even more intense. Zhuowen had returned this time just to deliver a single item, and it was actually enough for an Ultimate Emperor stage expert to personally bring him back. Wasn't this a little too much? City lords, I will only be staying in Rattan Armor City for a day. After a day, I will return to Broken Rock City. Therefore, I will be returning to the Zhuo family first. Zhuowen cupped his hands slightly and nodded at Qiu beside him. The two of them instantly disappeared from the city gates. As they watched the two of them disappear, the shock on Jiu Tian and Jiu Lai's faces didn't fade for a long time. In the end, Jiu Tian laughed bitterly and said, "I'm finding it harder and harder to see through Zhuoan. He's only been in Broken Rock City for a short while, but has already acquainted himself with such a powerful ultimate emperor stage expert. Moreover, this expert was even willing to personally escort him to Rattan Armor City." Jiu Lai's face was also filled with bitterness. The complicated look in his eyes grew even more intense. The Zhuo family's martial arts practice field was already packed with people. Many young and tender youths were diligently practicing their basic moves under Zhuo Beiqian's supervision. The sound of robes rustling against the air was rather pleasing to the ears in the entire martial arts practice field. Zhuo Beiqian's gaze was stern as he scanned the youths in the martial arts practice field. If there was any movement that was wrong, he would immediately correct it. At this moment, Zhuo Beiqian's eyes narrowed. He lifted his head to look at the distant horizon. He could feel an extremely powerful aura heading straight for the Zhuo family. Whoosh! From the depths of the Zhuo family, a burly figure suddenly shot out and arrived at the martial arts practice field in an instant. When this figure appeared in the martial arts practice field, the martial arts practice field instantly became somewhat quiet. Subsequently, those immature youths who were practicing their moves looked at the figure that had suddenly appeared with reverence in their eyes. "Greetings, Patriarch. It's good to live at home." The youths cupped their hands and shouted in unison, and their voices seemed to be rather loud and clear in the martial practice grounds. This figure was the head of the Zhuo family, Zhuo Xiangding. At this time, Zhuo Xiangding's face was very serious. He looked up at the sky and said seriously, "Boss, you also sensed that powerful aura, right?" Zhuo Beiqian's expression was equally solemn as he nodded. I just don't know if the owner of this aura is a friend or a foe. If it's a friend, then it's fine. If it's an enemy, then I'm afraid our Zhuo family will be in a very bad situation. Whether it's a friend or a foe, we'll naturally find out in a moment." Zhuo Xiangding narrowed his eyes and said seriously. Seeing that Zhuo Xiangding and Zhuo Beiqian were both silent and instead looking up at the sky, the youths in the martial arts practice field naturally couldn't hide the curiosity in their hearts and looked up at the sky. They were very curious as to what exactly Zhuo Xiangding and Zhuo Beiqian were looking at. Very soon, two figures immediately appeared in the empty sky. The two figures stood in the air and silently hovered at a height of 10,000 kilometers above the martial arts practice ground, stepping on the void as if it's flat ground. This can only be done by those whose strength is above the ultimate emperor realm. These two are actually ultimate emperor realm powerhouses. Looking at the two figures that suddenly stopped in the sky above them, Zhuo Xiangding's face twitched and he couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Even Zhuo Beiqian, who was beside him, couldn't remain calm. His body couldn't help but tremble as a look of horror appeared on his face. Ultimate Emperor realm powerhouses weren't existences that their Zhuo family or even Rattan Armor City could contend against. The youths in the martial arts practice field also noticed the abnormal reactions of Zhuo Xiangding and Zhuo Beiqian. A trace of doubt appeared on their young faces. Although these youths were still a little confused, they subconsciously sensed that the two figures that suddenly appeared in the sky above them were definitely powerhouses. Whoosh! The two figures in the sky suddenly moved and instantly landed on the martial arts practice field. Immediately, a slender youth of 17 or 18 and a middle-aged man with a cold expression appeared beside him. When Zhuo Xiangding and Zhuo Beiqian's gazes fell on the youth, they couldn't help but be startled. Then, with wild joy on their faces, they stepped forward and gave the youth a bear hug. "Zhuoan, my good grandson, I didn't expect you to return so early. I thought you would stay in Broken Rock City for a while." Zhuo Xiangding's face was filled with an excited smile as he couldn't help but laugh. Zhuo Beiqian's face was also filled with a gratified smile. They didn't know when, but they had already regarded the youth in front of them as the backbone of the Zhuo family. As long as the youth in front of them existed, their Zhuo family would prosper forever. "Grandfather, uncle. This senior is called Qiu Qiu. He is an ultimate emperor realm powerhouse. He is the one who brought me to Rattan Armor City this time." After the bear hug, Zhuowen pointed at Qiu Qiu and introduced him respectfully. Zhuo Xiangding and Zhuo Beitian were just about to greet Qiu Qiu when they suddenly heard the words Ultimate Emperor Realm. Their bodies suddenly trembled as they turned to Zhuowen and exclaimed, "Zhuowen, what did you say? This lord is an Ultimate Emperor Realm powerhouse? Do I not look like one?" Qiu Qiu glared as he replied coldly, "No, no. This lord, we didn't mean that. We just overreacted because we were too shocked." Zhuo Xiangding and Zhuo Beitian almost knelt down as they wiped away their cold sweat. An Ultimate Emperor Realm powerhouse was not someone to be trifled with. Zhuowen, however, frowned slightly and said in a rather cold tone, "Senior Qiu, these two are my family. I hope you can show them some respect." Zhuowen's somewhat disrespectful words made Zhuo Xiangding and Zhuo Beitian's hearts clench. This was an Ultimate Emperor Realm powerhouse, a peak existence even in the Qing Xian Empire. How could Zhuowen dare to speak to him in such a manner? Zhuo Xiangding had a bad feeling in his heart and hurriedly said with a smile, "This lord, please don't take offense. Zhuowen is young and doesn't know how to speak well. Please don't take it to heart." Qiu Qiu's face was as calm as still water. His eyes flickered and he suddenly smiled. This old man was indeed a little rude just now. "Since the two of you are young friend Zhuowen's elders, then you are naturally my friends. If it wasn't for young friend Zhuowen, I'm afraid this old man's life would really be in danger. Please forgive me for my rudeness just now." Zhuowen was also a little surprised by Qiu Qiu's attitude. He originally thought that Qiu Qiu would be angry, but he didn't expect him to actually apologize. It seemed like Qiu Qiu valued kindness very much. When Zhuo Xiangding and Zhuo Beitian heard this, they were first stunned and then stunned for a moment. They also didn't expect Qiu Qiu to actually apologize to them. An Ultimate Emperor Realm powerhouse apologizing to them immediately made Zhuo Xiangding and Zhuo Beitian feel a trace of unreality. The two of them hurriedly cupped their hands and said, "Lord, there's no need to be so polite. We can't accept it." In an instant, the originally somewhat tense atmosphere eased up a lot. "Grandfather, I've already found news about my aunt," Zhuowen suddenly said, but there was a trace of sadness in his eyes. "News about your aunt? How is she now?" Zhuo Xiangding's eyes were sharp and he immediately saw the sadness in Zhuowen's eyes. An unpleasant premonition arose in his heart. "This is the only thing my aunt left behind. Actually, she passed away 10 years ago." Zhuowen took out the dowry and solemnly handed it to Zhuo Xiangding. "My Jin, she's really gone?" His shoulders trembling, Zhuo Xiangding trembled as he took the dowry. His eyes were suddenly filled with sorrow. Although he had already guessed it, he still couldn't calm down when he heard this terrible news with his own ears. "Your grandson has personally killed her murderer. It's just a pity that my aunt's body is no longer left. All that's left is this dowry." Zhuowen sighed and said with a bitter smile, "Zhuowen, can you tell me everything you know? I want to know how my Jin died." Zhuo Xiangding suddenly raised his head and looked directly at Zhuowen. Looking at the serious expression on Zhuo Xiangding's face, Zhuowen sighed and told him the truth of that year, as well as how he killed Zhao Yuting. At the same time, Zhuowen also told him about the Arcana ceremony. After a long time, Zhuo Xiangding sighed deeply and said, "Back then, I knew that Zhao Yuting was not a good person. But my Jin was too kind. She didn't want to make things difficult for our family, so she resolutely married Zhao Yuting. I didn't expect that she would end up without a corpse. Zhuowen, we will arrange your aunt's funeral properly. You should return to Broken Rock City first. The Arcana ceremony is an opportunity for you. You can't miss it. If your aunt was still alive, she wouldn't want you to miss such a grand event like the Arcana ceremony." Zhuo Xiangding suddenly came to Zhuowen's side, patted him on the shoulder, and said softly. Looking deeply at the old man in front of him, Zhuowen suddenly felt a lump in his throat. He knew that Zhuo Xiangding said this because he didn't want to delay his future. He also knew how much the old man in front of him expected of him. He was afraid that even if the old man in front of him died, he would still let his grandson have a bright future. Zhuowen knew that the only thing he could do now was not to disappoint the old man in front of him, and not to disappoint the entire Zhuo family. After a slight hesitation, Zhuowen suddenly knelt down on both knees and bowed to Zhuo Xiangding from afar. He said seriously, "Grandfather, I promise you, whether it's the Arcana ceremony or the Vitality Tower battle in a year and a half, I won't admit defeat. I will continue to win until the Empire, the Eastern lands, and the entire continent know of our family's past glory once again." The young man's voice was sonorous and powerful. It was full of vigor, and it reverberated throughout the entire martial arts practice field. The tenacity and unyielding spirit in his voice caused everyone present to be intimidated. Chapter 272. Chapter 272. Field of Arcana. Early in the morning, when the first ray of warm sunlight shone on the vast and majestic Broken Rock City, the usually deserted streets actually became somewhat endless today, as if there was a sea of people. What was surprising was that most of the people in the crowd were dressed in loose black robes with golden emblems on their chests. These people were arcanists who were rarely seen. Although Broken Rock City was considered a powerful super-city, the number of arcanists in the city was naturally not small. However, most of the arcanists were in seclusion to research, cultivate, and refine crystals. They rarely appeared on the streets, which was why there were very few arcanists in the huge Broken Rock City. However, today was rather strange. Arcanists, who were rarely seen in the past, could be seen everywhere on the streets of Broken Rock City. Their numbers had reached a terrifying level. 5 days had already passed. Those who were in the know knew that today was the day of the Broken Rock City's Arcane Arts Guild's Arcane Arts Ceremony. It was said that the rewards for this Arcane Arts Ceremony were extremely rich. There was actually an extremely rare item like a Grade 4 Origin Array. It was precisely because of the attraction of the Grade 4 Origin Array that this year's Arcana ceremony attracted the attention of even more arcanists. Apart from the local arcanists of Broken Rock City, even many arcanists from other cities were attracted by the generous rewards. In the huge courtyard, Master Karaki was pacing back and forth, his face full of anxiety. He muttered to himself, "It's been 5 days. Why hasn't Zhuoan come back yet? Sigh. Today is the day of the Arcana ceremony. If this kid doesn't make it back in time, he'll probably be disqualified." Creak. The door to the courtyard was suddenly opened, and 3 figures appeared at the entrance. The 3 figures were led by a purple-robed old man. His hair and beard were all white, and he wore a smile on his face. It was Grandmaster Xianling, who had once stood together with Grandmaster Karaki in the Arcane Guild. The 2 people beside Xianling were naturally his disciples, Ouyang Yatao and Ouyang Shishure. "Karaki, today is the day of the Arcana ceremony. Didn't you submit your disciple Zhuowan's name as well? Let's go to the Arcane Arts Guild together today." Xuanling's face was full of smiles as he walked towards Grandmaster Karaki. Beside her, Ouyang Yatao's expression was calm and steady as he meticulously followed behind Xianling. On the other hand, Ouyang Shishure curled her lips. After entering the courtyard, her beautiful watery eyes began to scan her surroundings, as if she was searching for someone. But when she saw that there was only Grandmaster Karaki, a puzzled expression appeared on her face. She muttered to herself, "Where's that annoying guy?" When he saw Xianling and the other 2 arrive, Grandmaster Kang Mu forced a smile and said, "I didn't expect Brother Xianling to wake up so early. The sun has just risen. Since today is the day of the Arcana ceremony, I'm not in the mood to stay in bed any longer." However, this year's Arcana ceremony was truly different from previous years. It had attracted many arcanists from other cities. It is said that the 2 super cities closest to our Broken Rock City, Anding City and Yiyang City, have also sent their respective geniuses to participate. Xianling suddenly came to Grandmaster Karaki's side and said mysteriously. Hearing this, Grandmaster Karaki's expression changed. He said solemnly, "I didn't expect the 2 super cities to send their young generation of Arcana masters. It seems that the Arcana ceremony is really very attractive. I wonder how strong the geniuses sent by the 2 super cities are." Sigh. The arcanists dispatched by Anding City and Yiyang City this time are truly extraordinary. They're the number 1 figures of the younger generation in their cities, and their strengths are extremely formidable. It's said that their strengths have all reached the level of a rank 3 arcanist. As for exactly what rank they've reached, it's unknown. Speaking of this, Xianling suddenly glanced at Ouyang Yatao and sighed, If it was the Arcana ceremony of the past, with Yartao's complete grade 2 strength, it wouldn't be a problem for him to enter the top 3. But this time, I'm afraid it's almost impossible. The corner of Master Karaki's mouth also revealed a trace of a bitter smile. The person with the greatest mental energy talent in Broken Rock City was probably Master Kuya's disciple, Xuanai. His mental energy was already at the level of lower grade 3. This time, the two supercities, An City and Yeyang City, had sent out young experts whose strength was not weaker than Xuanai. It was likely that the competition in this arcane arts ceremony would become very intense. Ouyang Yartao, who was only at the level of complete grade 2, was indeed not enough. Beside him, Ouyang Yartao clenched his teeth when he heard this. A trace of sadness flashed across his eyes. He also admitted that with his current strength, it was indeed very difficult for him to obtain the top 3 in this Arcana Grand ceremony. Perhaps, even the top 5 would be somewhat difficult. Karaki, where's your disciple, Zhuoan? Call him. Let's go to the Arcana Guild together. The Arcana ceremony will officially begin when the sun is high in the sky. Your disciple is quite talented, but he's still young. The competition for the Arcana ceremony this time is so intense. I'm afraid it'll be difficult for him to achieve a good result. But it's good to be able to accumulate some experience and broaden his horizons. Xianling suddenly changed the topic. Hearing this, Karaki smiled bitterly and said, "My disciple still has some matters to attend to. I'm afraid he won't be able to make it back in time. Let's go first." He'll go directly to the Arcana Guild later. Oh, is there anything more important than the Arcana ceremony? Xianling was surprised when she heard this. That guy can't be afraid of the Arcana ceremony, which is full of geniuses, so he's looking for an excuse. Ouyang Shishure immediately mocked. Women were the most vengeful. Last time, Zhuoan embarrassed her. She had always disliked Zhuoan. Now that Zhuoan didn't appear, she naturally didn't spare any effort to mock him. Shishure, don't talk too much. Seeing that Grandmaster Karaki's expression was rather ugly, Xianling immediately scolded, making Ouyang Shishure obediently shut up. Then, Xianling smiled and continued, "You don't have to lower yourself to the same level as this girl. Since little brother Zhuoan has matters to attend to, let's go to the Arcana Guild first." Grandmaster Karaki was expressionless. He nodded slightly and walked out of the courtyard first. On the other hand, Ouyang Shishure shrunk her neck. She also knew that she had spoken too rashly. Under Xuanling's glare, she could only stick out her tongue. Once Karaki, Xianling, and the other 3 left the courtyard, they headed straight for the Arcana Guild. However, along the way, the 4 of them saw Arcana Masters wearing long robes of various colors everywhere. The number of Arcana Masters was like a hornet's nest, causing the 4 of them to click their tongues. The 4 of them finally realized how great the attraction of the Arcana ceremony was. On the south side of the Arcana Guild, there was an extremely vast square. The square stretched horizontally and vertically for dozens of feet. The area was so large that it could accommodate tens of thousands of people. This square was called the Arcana Trials Field. It was specially built by the Arcana Guild to hold every Arcana ceremony or other grand meetings related to Arcana Masters. The Arcana Trials Field was extremely famous in the Arcana Guild. The arcane test field was oval in shape, and at the edge of the oval was a huge wall stacked with bluestone slabs. The height of the wall was at least 10 meters, and on top of the wall were rows of seats. Obviously, these seats were used for spectating purposes. At this moment, the Arcana Trials Field was extremely lively. Many Arcana Masters had already entered and sat down on the seats in the Arcana Trials Field, silently waiting for the Arcana ceremony to begin. Karaki, Xianling, come over. When Karaki and Xianling arrived outside the Arcana Trials Field, they were stopped by a voice filled with vicissitudes of life. The 2 of them could not help but turn around and immediately saw Master Kuya in a grey robe slowly walking over with Xuanai. His wrinkled face was filled with a warm smile. "Greetings, Mr. President." When Karaki and Xianling saw that it was Master Kuya, they quickly cupped their hands and bowed respectfully. No need to be so courteous. This time, You've also brought your disciples to participate in the Arcana ceremony, right? Most of the Arcana masters participating in this Arcana ceremony are not from Broken Rock City. As Arcana masters of Broken Rock City, you have to work hard. You can't tarnish the reputation of our Broken Rock City's Arcana Guild. Kuya smiled and shifted his gaze to the siblings, Ouyang Yatao and Ouyang Shishire, who were behind Xianling. However, when he saw that Master Karaki was alone, Master Kuya was suddenly stunned. He then asked, Karaki, where's your disciple, Zhuoan? Why don't I see him by your side today? Karaki smiled embarrassedly and said, Zhuoan has urgent matters to attend to, so he won't be here for a while. However, he should be here before the Arcana ceremony. What urgent matters could be more important than the Arcana ceremony? Your disciple's talent and strength are not bad. I'm afraid that he will perform well in this Arcana ceremony. I still think highly of him. Master Kuya gave Karaki a meaningful glance and said with a smile. Then, thank you for your praise, Master Kuya. Karaki's smile was rather stiff, but his heart was filled with anxiety. Meanwhile, Xuanai's beautiful eyes narrowed. The corners of her cherry-red lips revealed a trace of mockery and disdain. She whispered in a voice that only she could hear, it seems that he's just a guy who likes to talk big. 5 days ago, he boasted in front of me, wanting to show me who's the frog at the bottom of the well. Today, he doesn't dare to come. However, I don't have to be too calculative with this cowardly guy. There's no need to. Let's go. Let's all enter the Arcana training field. This Arcana ceremony is different from the past. Many big shots have come. Not only are Broken Rock City's City Lord, Ouyang Yuntu, and the ancestors of the 4 great families are here, but even the vice presidents of the 2 Arcana guilds of Nding City and Yeyang City have personally come. Master Kuya smiled and led Xuanai into the entrance of the Arcana training field. Chapter 273. Yeyang City and Nding City. The VIP seats at the top of the arcane testing grounds were already filled with people. When Master Kuya brought Kang Mu, Xianling, and the others in, they immediately attracted the attention of many people in the VIP seats. Master Kuya, you're finally here. We were just talking about you. A tall and sturdy middle-aged man in purple armor welcomed Master Kuya and the others with a hearty laugh. His eyes sparkled when he saw them enter. City Lord Ouyang, long time no see. I didn't think that you would personally come to watch this year's arcane ceremony. I didn't expect that. Master Kuya smiled and replied. The smiling middle-aged man in purple armor was the City Lord of Broken Rock City, Ouyang Yuntu. He was a second-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm expert. Behind Ouyang Yuntu were 4 old men in long robes. These 4 old men were the 4 chief guards of the City Lord's estate. They were all half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm experts. This year's arcane ceremony is different from the past. Nding City and Yeyang City have also sent their own arcane geniuses. As the City Lord, I naturally can't ignore it. At this point, Ouyang Yuntu suddenly focused his gaze on Ouyang Yatao and Ouyang Shishire, who were beside Master Xianling. He smiled and said, the 2 of you are outstanding disciples of the City Lord's estate. You must perform well in this arcane ceremony. When Ouyang Yatao and Ouyang Shishire heard this, they immediately revealed excited expressions. They hurriedly bowed and said, thank you for your kindness, City Lord. We will definitely do our best. Ouyang Yuntu nodded slightly and continued chatting with Master Kuya. Xianling and Kang Mu tactfully found a seat and sat down, silently waiting for the arcane ceremony to begin. In the VIP seats, apart from the members of the Arcane Guild and the City Lord's estate, the patriarchs of the 4 great clans of Broken Rock City had also brought their own geniuses. Among them, the patriarch of the Zhao clan, Zhao Xuanwu, was also seated. Father, didn't Big Brother Zhuoan say that he's also going to participate in the arcane ceremony? Why haven't I seen him yet? Beside Zhao Xuanwu sat a young and beautiful girl. The girl was using her watery eyes to constantly sweep around the VIP seats. After discovering that there was no one she wanted, a trace of disappointment surfaced on her pretty face. Don't worry. The Arcana ceremony is a grand event in Broken Rock City. As long as one is an Arcanist, it is impossible for them to miss this grand event. Moreover, this year's Arcana ceremony is especially prosperous. Given our young friend Zhuowen's character, he will definitely not miss this grand event. Zhao Xuanwu lovingly stroked the young girl's hair and smiled gently. However, I heard that the Arcana guilds of the two supercities, Anding City and Yeyang City, have sent some genius disciples this time, and there's even a grade 3 Arcana master amongst them. I'm afraid the Arcana ceremony this time will be a fierce battle. Although our young friend Zhuowen is already a grade 2 Arcana master at such a young age, this level may not be enough for this Arcana ceremony. Looking at the densely packed Arcanists in the seats, Zhao Xuanwu's heart was filled with shock. Hearing this, Zhao Wenqian curled her lips and pouted, I believe in Big Brother Zhuowen. He's definitely the best. Zhao Xuanwu dotingly stroked his daughter's hair, but his heart was a little complicated. As the patriarch of the Zhao clan, he knew much more inside information than others. The competition in this Arcana ceremony was too fierce. Perhaps even the Arcana Guild's president, Master Ku Yae's disciple, Xuanai, did not have 100% chance of becoming the champion this time. In this somewhat boring wait, suddenly, a rather ear-piercing sound of breaking through the air suddenly whistled. Then, in the sky above the arcane art trial field, a pair of figures shot straight toward the VIP seats, and appeared in the VIP seats in an instant. There were a total of 5 people in this group. The leader was a grey-robed old man with a cold expression. Behind him were 4 young men and women wearing Arcanist uniforms. There were 3 men and 1 woman, but the insignia on their Arcanist uniforms was very different from the Arcanists of Broken Rock City. On the back of their uniforms, there was a blood-red sunset insignia, as if it was the sunset that was gradually setting over the mountains. People from Yeyang City? Many people in the VIP seats recognized the insignia on their uniforms and could not help but exclaim. In the VIP seats, Master Ku Yae and Ouyang Yuntu, who were originally chatting with each other, also noticed the sudden arrival of the group. Among them, Master Ku Yae narrowed his eyes. Then, he laughed heartily and walked forward. He warmly said, Master Han Yun, I really did not expect that the leader of Yeyang City's team this time would be you. This has really surprised me. The cold old man leading the group revealed a slight smile when he saw Master Ku Yae coming forward. He faintly said, this time, your Broken Rock City's Arcana Guild has already taken out a grade 4 Yuan array as a reward. Our Yeyang City has no reason not to participate. Brother Ku Yae, if our Yeyang City accidentally becomes the champion this time. Han Yun, the champion of this Arcana ceremony is not your Yeyang City's turn to take it. If anyone wants to take it, it should be the geniuses of our Anding City. Before the cold old man named Han Yun could finish speaking, he was directly interrupted by a loud voice. Then, another sound of something breaking through the air rushed over. There was another group on the aisle of the VIP seats. However, what surprised everyone was that there were only 3 people in this group. The leader was a middle-aged man with fiery red hair. Although this middle-aged man was wearing a rather loose robe, it still could not hide his protruding fiery muscles. Clearly, this middle-aged man not only had strong mental energy, but his martial realm was also not weak. Behind this red-haired man, there was a man and a woman quietly following. The man was handsome, and the woman was beautiful. Moreover, the man and woman's appearance were quite similar. Clearly, they were a pair of twins. Master Hua Yun from Anding City. He's also a grade 4 Master Arcana Master. The arrival of the red-haired man also caused a commotion in the VIP seats. Many people began to discuss spiritedly. Clearly, this Master Hua Yun was quite famous. Master Han Yun's eyes darkened when he heard this. He coldly snorted and said, Hua Yun, you're too arrogant. In order to become the champion of the Arcana ceremony, our Yeyang City even sent our Arcana Guild's number 1 genius, Ju Yi. His mental energy broke through to the advanced grade 3 realm 3 months ago. As soon as Han Yun's words came out, it immediately attracted the attention of many people in the VIP seats. Then, these people's gazes fell on the 4 young men and women behind him. The mental energy emitted from these 4 young men and women was very powerful. Among them, the weakest was the only woman. Her mental energy was at the perfect grade 2 realm. The other two young men were actually at the initial grade 3 realm. The most terrifying one was an ordinary man with thick eyebrows and big eyes standing at the front. This man's age was about the same as Ouyang Yatao, but the power that he faintly revealed was quite terrifying. This power had far surpassed the three young men and women behind him. Advanced grade 3 realm? Master Kuya frowned slightly and involuntarily muttered in a low voice. When Xuanai, who had a cold expression beside him, heard this, her originally calm and beautiful eyes immediately rippled a little. She could not help but turn her clear eyes towards the ordinary-looking young man behind Master Han Yun. There was a trace of surprise on her calm face. She also didn't expect that this ordinary-looking young man in front of her actually had a mental energy realm that was a step ahead of her. This made her, who was originally arrogant, feel quite uncomfortable. Master Hua Yun sneered and said, "Your Yeyang City's Ju Yi is indeed a genius with decent natural talent. However, no matter how outstanding his natural talent is, how could he possibly be a match for two Arcana Masters at the peak of the third rank? Su Qi, Su Yang, let them see your true strength." Grandmaster Hua Yun's words caused the corners of the mouths of the twin siblings behind him to form an arc. Soon after, two mental energy that was not weaker than Ju Yi's surged out in an instant and spread across the entire VIP seats in all directions. Oh my god! They're actually advanced grade 3 realm arcanists, and there are two of them. The strength of Ending City is really strong. They can actually cultivate two young advanced grade 3 realm arcanists. Although Ending City sent the least number of arcanists this time, their strength is the strongest. If nothing unexpected happens, I'm afraid that Ending City will be the champion of this arcane ceremony. When the twin siblings behind Master Hua Yun, Su Qi, and Su Yang, completely released their mental energy, the VIP seats were completely in an uproar. Everyone was discussing spiritedly, and for a moment, the atmosphere in the seats became quite fiery. Your Ending City is really good at hiding. You actually hid two advanced grade 3 realm arcanists. However, the champion of this arcane ceremony isn't so easy to obtain. When the time comes, it's not certain who will win. Master Han Yun's expression was quite ugly. He also didn't expect that there would be two advanced grade 3 realm arcanists among the younger generation of Ending City. Then, this old man will wait and see. Master Hua Yun's expression was rather straightforward. Then, he shifted his gaze to Master Ku Ya, who seemed to be silent at the side. He continued, "Brother Ku Ya, this arcane ceremony is organized by Broken Rock City after all. I'm afraid the disciples sent by Broken Rock City this time will be even stronger. Why don't you introduce us to the disciples from Broken Rock City who will be participating this time?" When Master Han Yun heard this, he also focused his gaze on Master Ku Ya. There was a hint of curiosity on his face. Obviously, he was interested in the arcanists from Broken Rock City this time. When Master Ku Ya heard this, a hint of embarrassment suddenly appeared on his face. Then, he glanced helplessly at Xuanai beside him and smiled faintly. "This is my disciple, Xuanai. She's one of the participants of this arcane ceremony. Other than her, there's also the disciple from the city governor's mansion, Ouyang Yatao. I'm afraid that the strength sent by Broken Rock City this time can't be compared to the two of you." Xuanai bit her lower lip with her pearly white teeth. Her originally cold eyes were now filled with sadness. After seeing the lineup brought by the two masters, Hua Yun and Han Yun, the arrogance in her heart had long been torn to pieces. She knew that with her strength, it would be difficult for her to get into the top 3 in this Arcana ceremony. Initial grade 3 realm? Your strength is not bad. However, who is the strongest among the younger generation in Broken Rock City? This old man would like to meet that little guy. Master Hua Yun nodded politely to Xuanai, then looked at Master Ku Ya and asked in confusion. "Brother Hua Yun, the strength of our Broken Rock City is weak. The strongest among the younger generation is Xuanai, unlike Yeyang City and Ending City who both have advanced grade 3 realm arcanists." Master Ku Ya's face suddenly turned cold, and his tone was stiff. Chapter 274. Celestial star array. The strange atmosphere didn't last for long. Master Hua Yun immediately smiled. So this little girl is from your Broken Rock City's younger generation. Her talent isn't bad. She's younger than Su Qi and Su Yang, but she's already at the advanced 3rd grade. That's not easy. Although Master Hua Yun had a smile on his face, the depths of his eyes were filled with ridicule and mockery. He knew that if the Arcana Masters sent out by Broaching Rock City were only at this level, then their Nding City's only opponent would be Yeyang City. With Su Qi and Su Yang, 2 advanced 3rd grade arcanists, Master Hua Yun knew that Yeyang City had a great chance of becoming the champion this time. Master Ku Ya coldly snorted and returned to his seat with Xuanai. He didn't want to speak with Master Hua Yun anymore. Xuanai, on the other hand, clenched her hands tightly together and bit her cherry lips. She firmly said to Master Ku Ya beside her, "Master, I won't let you down in this Arcana ceremony." Master Ku Ya was startled. Then, with a gentle gaze, he patted Xuanai's shoulder and smiled, "You don't have to worry too much. Although the disciples sent by Nding City and Yeyang City are very strong, our Broken Rock City isn't weak either. You don't have to worry too much. Just do your best." "Millimeter, I will." Xuanai nodded and firmly said. As time passed by, the Arcana testing grounds became more and more lively. An endless stream of arcanists poured in from the entrance of the testing grounds, causing the originally spacious testing grounds to become a little crowded and noisy. As time continued to pass, the anxious expression on Master Karaki's face became more and more intense. He frowned and muttered to himself, "The Arcana ceremony is almost here. Why hasn't Zhuoan arrived yet? If he doesn't come soon, I'm afraid it'll really be too late." Xianling beside him also saw the uneasiness on Master Karaki's face. She sighed, "Karaki, isn't that disciple of yours being too childish? Why hasn't he arrived yet? If he doesn't come soon, there won't be any time left." Master Karaki didn't reply. He only sat in his seat in silence. However, his furrowed brows showed that he wasn't in a good mood. At this moment, a gloating smile appeared on Ouyang Shishure's face. Dong, dong, dong. In the end, a clear and loud sound of a bell suddenly rang throughout the entire arcane art trial grounds. The loud and clear sound continued to reverberate throughout the entire trial grounds, and the originally loud noise quietly quieted down at this moment. The dense crowd of locust-like arcanists on the training field all raised their respectful gazes and looked towards the VIP seats at the very top. They knew that Master Ku Ya, the arcanist with a lofty status in Broken Rock City, was sitting in the VIP seats. At this moment, Master Ku Ya's weathered face was filled with a solemn expression. He stood up and looked down at the empty training field below. His calm voice slowly rang out, "I, Ku Ya, in the name of the president of Broken Rock City's Arcane Guild, announce that the 10th Arcane Ceremony will now begin." Boom! The entire place was in an uproar. Loud cheers shook the 9 heavens. After the announcement, a dozen figures immediately rushed out from the VIP seats. Among them, Master Ku Ya was the leader, and the rest were all perfect Grade 3 arcanists. Master Ku Ya led the dozen or so arcanists and stood in the air above the training field. Then, Master Ku Ya's hands quickly formed a complicated seal and shouted, "Form the celestial star formation." After saying that, Master Ku Ya patted his Chenkuan bag. Then, countless sparkling origin crystals immediately scattered from his hands. They were like light that drifted across the air in a dazzling trajectory. The celestial star formation, only one direction, mountains crumble in front, earth shatters into peaks. The moment Master Ku Ya scattered the origin crystals, the dozen or so arcanists also drew a complicated trajectory with their hands. Obscure seals flashed past one after another. Then, everyone could clearly feel that the origin chi above the arcane art trial grounds had actually started to boil strangely at this moment. Then, the countless origin crystals that were like meteors in the air suddenly intertwined and outlined in an extremely strange trajectory in the air. They actually intertwined to form a boundary with a radius of several hundred miles in the vast training field. Rumble. A deafening explosion suddenly sounded. Then, the ground within the boundary suddenly cracked open. A dazzling light, like a protruding peak, suddenly rushed out from the depths of the ground. When the light gradually faded, a pyramid-like mountain peak that was several hundred feet tall suddenly appeared in front of everyone. This pyramid-like mountain peak was quite strange. There were layers of steps on its edge. The steps were 10 feet long and 10 feet high. Each step was enough to accommodate 2 to 3 people. There were tens of thousands of such steps from the lowest to the highest. The surface of the entire pyramid-like mountain peak flickered with a faint blue light. Looking from afar, it looked distant and mysterious. Above the pyramid, there were countless twinkling stars. Above the celestial star formation, the stars were bright and brilliant, mysterious and gorgeous. It's actually a grade 4 origin array, celestial star formation. It seems that Kuya has really put in a lot of effort to hold this arcane art ceremony. In the VIP seats, Huayun looked at the pyramid-like mountain peak in the boundary and the countless stars on the mountain peak. His eyes couldn't help but flicker as he muttered to himself. All the arcanists in the entire arcane art trial field fell into silence and shock because of the great effort of Master Kuya and the others. After the silence, countless cheers and applause broke out. After gathering the power of more than a dozen perfect grade 3 arcanists and outlining the magnificent celestial star formation below, Master Kuya expressionlessly stomped his foot in the air again and shouted, "Sacrifice the tower! Sacrifice the tower!" As soon as Kuya finished speaking, the dozen or so arcanists in the surroundings immediately shouted in unison. Their loud and clear voices were deafening and shocking throughout the training ground. Whoosh! After saying that, Master Kuya patted his Chenkuan bag again and took out a palm-sized light tower. This pocket-sized light tower was emitting a glass-like brilliance. Waves of frightening mental energy constantly surged out from the light tower, and the surrounding air emitted some muffled tearing sounds. A thought passed through Grandmaster Kuya's mind after he suddenly took out the light tower. The incomparably powerful mental energy within his Niwan palace surged out like floodwaters and poured into the light tower. The remaining dozen-plus people did the same. Their mental energy poured into the light tower like it was pouring into the sea. Buzz, buzz, buzz. A strange sound rang out. Then, the palm-sized light tower suspended in the air suddenly trembled. After emitting a loud buzzing sound, it rapidly expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye. 10 feet, 50 feet, 100 feet, 200 feet, 500 feet. Like a small sapling growing into a towering tree, the palm-sized light pagoda eventually turned into a gigantic pagoda that was 500 feet tall. In the end, the gigantic pagoda rumbled and landed not far from the pyramid. The two gigantic buildings faced each other from a distance under the starry sky. Watching such a shocking scene in the training field, all the arcanists could not help but feel their blood boil. They knew that they were going to have an arcane competition under the stars. Regardless of whether it was the huge scene or the vast area, it made all the arcanists' eyes light up. After doing all that, Master Kuya's eyes narrowed. He looked down at everyone in the training field and loudly said, "The Arcana ceremony is divided into 3 stages. The first stage is the Gold Peak. There are a total of 10,000 steps on the Gold Peak. Moreover, there is a powerful mental energy pressure. The higher you go, the stronger the mental energy pressure. At the top of the Gold Peak, there are 100 bluestone platforms. The seal-breaking crystal, a grade 2 origin crystal, is placed on the bluestone platforms. Only the top 100 competitors who reach the peak will pass the first stage. Therefore, the first stage will now begin. The time limit is the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. Boom. As soon as Master Kuya finished speaking, the arcanists who had been waiting in their seats for a long time rushed toward the celestial star array like a swarm of locusts. They were heading toward the gold peak that was emitting a faint blue light. Su Yang. The first stage shouldn't be difficult for you. With your strength, you should be able to quickly take the lead. Now, you should go too. Master Huayun smiled faintly. His face was full of calmness as he said to the twins behind him, "Yes, Master." Su and Su Yang respectfully cupped their hands toward Master Huayun. Then, Powerful mental energy wrapped around them and they flew toward the celestial star array. Not far away, Master Han Yun cast a sidelong glance at Master Hui Yun's back and said to the four people led by Ju Yi, "The most important stage of this arcana ceremony is the third stage. The four of you should be able to pass the first stage as long as you pay attention. You should go too." "Yes, Master." Ju Yi was full of energy as he bowed from afar. Then, he led the three people behind him and flew toward the gold peak without looking back. On the side of the VIP seats, Xuanai looked at Su Qi, Su Yang, and the others with a complicated expression. She gritted her teeth and a determined look appeared in her beautiful eyes. Then, she also extended her graceful figure and shot out like the wind. "I must win this arcana ceremony. This time, it's not only my honor, but also the honor of the entire Broken Rock City." As Xuanai left, Ouyang Yatao, who was beside Master Xianling, also flew out without hesitation and joined the countless arcanists who were fighting for the materials. At this moment, cold sweat faintly appeared on Master Karaki's forehead. He sat in his seat somewhat dejectedly and muttered to himself with a bitter smile, "Sigh. It's over, it's over. Zhuowen still hasn't come. It looks like he won't be able to make it. I shouldn't have let him leave Broken Rock City without permission. I shouldn't have." Xianling looked at Master Karaki, who seemed to be in a daze, and sighed. Just as she was about to say something, she suddenly frowned and raised her head to look at the horizon not far away. Chapter 275. The Golden Summit. The powerful pressure was like a tidal wave, rushing straight from the distant horizon. Its speed had reached an appalling level. In the VIP seats, countless people couldn't help but stand up, frowning as they looked in the direction of the pressure. So powerful, so familiar. This aura. Ouyang Yuntu, who was chatting cheerfully, suddenly stood up and looked into the distance. He had a feeling that this aura was familiar. Whoosh, whoosh. Not long after, under everyone's gaze, two figures suddenly appeared in the sky above the training field. The figures that suddenly appeared were Zhuowen and Qiu Chou, who had rushed over from Ratanama City. Quietly suspended in the air, Zhuowen couldn't help but wipe the cold sweat on his forehead as he muttered to himself, "I finally made it. I thought I was going to miss the arcana ceremony. Kid, don't you trust me that much? I said that I would make you arrive on time, so I will definitely keep my word." Looking at the situation, the first stage of the arcana ceremony should have begun. Hurry up and go to the Golden Summit. As long as you reach the summit within the top 100, you will have passed the first stage. Qiu Chou stood proudly and said with a frown. Zhuowen didn't have the slightest doubt that Qiu Chou knew so much about the arcana ceremony. After all, this guy used to be the #1 expert in Broken Rock City. It wasn't surprising that he knew the upper echelons of the Arcana Guild, so it was normal for him to know some details about the arcana ceremony. "Okay, thank you for your help this time, Senior Qiu." Nodding slightly, Zhuowen, wrapped in Qiu Chou's yuan power, flew toward the celestial star array at a dazzling speed. In a flash, he approached the Golden Summit. At this time, there were already many arcanists gathered below the Golden Summit. There were over 10,000 steps to the Golden Peak. The most important material for the seal-shattering crystal should be at the very top of the Golden Peak. At this moment, the Arcana Masters were all using their own spirit to quickly climb up. The pressure brought about by the arrival of Qiu Chou and Zhuowen naturally attracted the attention of the Arcanists on the Golden Peak stage. When they realized that the one who came to participate in this arcana ceremony was actually a young man who smelled like he was still wet behind the ears, a look of disdain and contempt appeared on their faces. Even Su Qi, Su Yang and Ju Yi, who were at the top of the group, suddenly ignored Zhuowen when they saw his somewhat tender face. Instead, they focused on activating the mental energy in their bodies and continuously climbing up the golden platform. To them, this young man who had suddenly appeared did not pose any threat to them. Xuanai, who was behind Su Qi and the rest, also saw Zhuowen. She frowned and muttered in a low voice, "That guy still came. But with his mere grade 2 mental energy, he's of no help to our Broken Rock City at all. This arcana ceremony still needs to rely on me." After Xuanai finished speaking, she no longer paid attention to Zhuowen. Instead, she constantly activated the mental energy in her body and tried her best to catch up with the others in front of her. When he reached the bottom of the Golden Peak stage, Zhuowen awkwardly realized that he was the only one left at the bottom. The thousands of arcanists were already climbing with all their might. Even the slowest one was faster than Zhuowen by a few hundred steps, while the fastest ones had already left Zhuowen behind by more than 1,000 steps. Looks like I have to speed up, otherwise I won't even be able to enter the top 100. From the beginning, Zhuowen had suppressed his mental energy to the level of Grade 2 Advanced Mastery. But now, Zhuowen did not want to expose his Grade 3 Advanced Mastery mental energy prematurely. If I raise my mental energy to Grade 2 Advanced Mastery and then use the effect of the Thundersnake wings, my speed should be comparable to that of a Grade 3 Initial Mastery Arcanist. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. Mental energy suddenly surged out from his Niwen Palace, and the soles of his feet were also filled with electric light. As he took a step forward, his entire body was filled with electric light. In an instant, he turned into numerous shadows under the Golden Peak stage and rushed up the Golden Peak stage at a rapid speed. In the sky above the training field, after Cho sent Zhuowen to the Golden Peak stage, he stepped lightly in the air and directly arrived at the VIP seats. Then, he casually sat down in a seat. He was so thick-skinned that he did not feel embarrassed at all. In the VIP seats, Master Karaki, who was originally in a daze, saw that Zhuowen had actually arrived. His eyes suddenly flashed with a ray of light. He laughed out loud and said, "Fortunately, Zhuowen arrived in time. Otherwise, he would really be disqualified from this arcana ceremony." Xianling, who was beside him, smiled bitterly and said, "Karaki, although Zhuowen arrived, he left much later than the others. If he was not late, he might have a chance to enter the top 100. But now, I'm afraid it will be a little difficult." Master Karaki had already recovered his spirit. His eyes were shining as he said, "I don't think so. Zhuowen should have no problem entering the top 100. Xianling was a little speechless as she glanced at her good friend beside her. She was too lazy to say anything else. She only muttered to herself, "He's already a few hundred steps behind the others. Unless he has a third-grade mental energy, it will be very difficult for him to catch up with the others and enter the top 100. On the other side of the VIP seats, after Cho sat down in a familiar manner, Ouyang Yuntu's eyes flickered. After carefully sizing up Cho, he asked cautiously, You are Senior Cho?" Although the Cho before him had a rather sinister scar on his face, his basic outline was still quite clear. When Ouyang Yuntu saw Cho's face, he recalled that unruly and unreasonable figure from 10 years ago. "Little Ouyang, your memory is not bad. You actually still remember this old man." Cho glanced at Ouyang Yuntu meaningfully and laughed mischievously. "Haha. That's because Senior Cho's deeds back then were too sensational. My memory of Senior is still fresh in my mind," Ouyang Yuntu said with a smile. Ouyang Yuntu's somewhat fawning performance immediately caused many people in the VIP seats to raise their eyebrows. In their hearts, they were secretly guessing exactly which great figure Cho was. Even Grandmaster Han Yun and Grandmaster Hue Yun had grave gazes as they looked at Cho. Although the two of them did not know Cho, they could still feel the faintly discernible terrifying aura from Cho. This aura was even more terrifying than Ouyang Yuntu's. In other words, Cho's strength was definitely above Ouyang Yuntu's. "Old brother Cho, I thought you wouldn't come. So you're here to deliver that little guy Zhuowen. However, this old man is a little curious. How do you know this little guy? It seems that the relationship between the two of you is not ordinary." After Master Kuya returned from the training field, he saw Cho. He immediately walked over with a hearty smile and patted Cho's shoulder. "This old man owes this little guy a favor." Cho glanced at Master Kuya and said indifferently, "A favor?" Master Kuya and Ouyang Yuntu were shocked when they heard this. An Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator's favor was not so easy to obtain. It could be said that an Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator's favor was a priceless treasure. They never thought that a 17-year-old youth like Zhuowen would actually be able to make Cho owe him a favor. For a moment, Zhuowen's identity became somewhat strange and mysterious in their hearts. Let's not talk about these boring things. Let's see how the Arcana ceremony is going. Cho waved his hand impatiently and said indifferently as he pointed at the golden summit within the celestial star formation. After Cho finished speaking, Ouyang Yuntu and Master Ku Ya stopped talking. Instead, their gazes focused on the golden summit within the celestial star formation. The three people in the lead don't seem to be arcanists from our Broken Rock City, right? Cho's sharp gaze immediately focused on the three people who had been in the lead and said with a frown. Master Ku Ya smiled bitterly and said, "They are indeed not from our Broken Rock City. The person in the lead is called Su Yang and the person in third place is called Su Qi. They are twins and are two genius arcanists from Settlement City. Their mental strength has already reached the greater success of the third grade. The person in second place is called Ju Yi. He is the strongest among the younger generation in Yeyang City and is also at the greater success of the third grade. The person in fourth place is my disciple, Xuanai. Her mental strength is probably at the peak of the lesser success of the third grade." At this point, the bitterness at the corner of Master Ku Ya's mouth became even more intense. The strength of the younger generation in Broken Rock City was actually inferior to that of Yeyang City and Settlement City. This made Master Ku Ya feel a little ashamed. Your Broken Rock City's arcane guild is really getting worse with each passing year. The younger generation that you have nurtured is actually inferior to that of Settlement City and Yeyang City, Cho said coldly. Looking at the somewhat silent Master Ku Ya, Cho waved his hand and said, "Forget it. I don't want to interfere in the matters of your Broken Rock City's arcane guild. However, if your Broken Rock City's arcanists really lose this arcane ceremony, I'm afraid that you will become the laughingstock of other super cities. I hope that your disciple will do well." After Cho finished speaking, he focused his gaze on Zhuowen, who was at the back. He wanted to see how the always confident young man would be able to enter the top 100 in such a backward situation. Hey, how is this kid so fast? Isn't his mental strength only at the greater success of the second grade? When Cho's gaze fell on Zhuowen, who was at the back, he suddenly exclaimed softly. Cho's words also attracted the attention of Master Ku Ya and Ouyang Yuntu, who were beside him. They could not help but shift their gazes to Zhuowen, who was at the back. Then, a hint of astonishment appeared in their calm eyes. The young man who was at the back was currently covered with countless twining lightning bolts. His entire body was like a sharp bolt of lightning. In just an instant, he had surpassed many people. Chapter 276. First pass. As expected, the spiritual pressure on the golden platform grows stronger the higher I go. I've only reached the 5,000th step, but the pressure is already enough to make ordinary rank 2 Arcana Masters slow down. Zhuowen muttered to himself as he stared at the Arcanists, who were clearly slowing down, as he stood halfway up the golden platform. He could sense that the Arcanists who were able to reach the mountainside were all Grade 2 Arcanists. Although most of them were Grade 2 lower tier Arcanists, there were also some Grade 2 greater tier Arcanists. Zhuowen's arrival naturally attracted the attention of many Arcanists halfway up the mountain. When these Arcanists noticed Zhuowen's face, they were all surprised. They could still clearly remember that the young man in front of them had only arrived after the first stage had started. His position should have been at the very back of everyone. It hadn't been long since he had arrived, but he was already halfway up the mountain. Wasn't this speed a little too shocking? Zhuowen ignored the curious gazes of the Arcanists around him and raised his head to look at the endless flight of stairs. His brows furrowed slightly. If the pressure on the golden platform grew stronger and stronger, his speed would most likely slow down. When that happened, he wouldn't be able to guarantee that he would be able to make it into the top 100 in the allotted time. Dong! A loud and clear sound of a bell suddenly rang out, reverberating throughout the entire arcane trial grounds like a great bell. It immediately attracted the attention of all the climbing Arcanists. Then, at the top of the golden stage, a huge light screen suddenly appeared like a banner. At the top of the light screen was the 2 huge words Su Yang, which was unusually conspicuous in the entire arcane test field. Someone has already reached the top of the Golden Word Summit. I didn't expect it to be so fast. Who is this Su Yang? He doesn't seem to be an arcanist from Broken Rock City. I heard that this Su Yang is a genius sent by Nding City's arcane guild. His mental energy has already reached the advanced 3rd grade, much stronger than our Broken Rock City's Xuanai. The seats above the training ground first descended into a short period of silence before a clamorous discussion suddenly erupted. In the VIP seats, a smug smile suddenly appeared on Master Hue Yun's face. He glanced at Master Han Yun with a slight provocation and said, "It seems that our Anding City is still a little better. Su Yang is still quite capable." When Master Hue Yun said this, Master Han Yun's face became extremely gloomy. He said coldly, "This is only the first stage. It doesn't mean anything." "Really?" Grandmaster Hue Yun chuckled coldly and did not say anything else. Instead, he turned his attention back to the Golden Word stage. Chiu Cho, Master Ku Ya, and the others who were sitting in the front row also heard Master Hue Yun's words and their expressions turned ugly. "Brother Ku Ya, your disciple is much weaker than those 2 old fellows' disciples. Right now, he's still only ranked 4th. Chiu Cho coldly snorted. When Master Ku Ya heard this, he felt somewhat uncomfortable. He smiled bitterly and said, "There's nothing we can do about it. After all, Xuanai is a few years younger than their disciples. It's understandable that her strength is a little weaker." Halfway up the Golden Word stage, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. He immediately turned his head to look at the incense stick that had just been lit and muttered, "This Su Yang is a little too strong. It's only been half an incense stick's time and has already reached the top. Fortunately, this is only the first stage. As long as he gets into the top 100, it's fine." At around the 9,000th step of the Golden Word stage, Xuanai continued to climb up with some difficulty. She was panting and sweating profusely. She looked at Su Qi, who was not far away from her, with a trace of determination in her eyes. "At the very least, I have to make it into the top 3. Only then will I not embarrass our Broken Rock City too much. If no one in the top 3 is an arcanist from Broken Rock City, I don't know what others will think of our Broken Rock City." As she spoke, Xuanai forcefully unleashed the mental energy in her Niwen Palace. Her speed increased by a few notches, and she was only 10 steps away from Su Qi. In front, Su Qi seemed to have also noticed Xuanai, who was constantly approaching below. Her beautiful eyes shifted slightly, and after glancing at Xuanai, who seemed to be struggling, a cold smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. "A mere initial grade 3 arcanist wants to surpass me? That's a little wishful thinking." As she spoke, an even more powerful mental energy suddenly erupted from Su Qi's body. Then, with a light step, her speed increased by several times. In the blink of an eye, she had left Xuanai behind by dozens of steps. Xuanai's pretty face instantly turned deathly pale as she looked at the beautiful figure who was getting further and further away from her. A trace of helplessness faintly leaked out from her clear and cold eyes. She was really unwilling to accept this. The Arcana ceremony was clearly held by their Broken Rock City, but none of the top 3 arcanists in the first stage belonged to their Broken Rock City. This involuntarily caused a trace of grievance to rise in Xuanai's heart. Dong! Dong! Another 2 loud bell sounds rang out, and 2 more names appeared on the light screen at the top of the Golden Word Summit. They were Ju Yi and Su Qi, ranked 2nd and 3rd respectively. Xuanai clenched her teeth as she looked at the 3 names on the light screen at the top. The helplessness in her eyes became even more intense. However, this girl's willpower was quite firm. She clenched her teeth and continued to climb. Finally, after 20 breaths, she reached the top of the Golden Word Summit. The top of the Golden Word Summit was a vast platform. On the platform, there were neatly arranged green stone platforms. There were a total of 100 stone platforms, and the materials needed to refine the seal-breaking crystal were placed on top of the stone platforms. Xuanai's appearance naturally attracted the attention of Su Yang, Ju Yi, and Su Qi, who were already waiting at the top. However, their gazes were still filled with arrogance and faint mockery. Clearly, they also recognized the number 1 person among the younger generation in Broken Rock City. "Yo! Isn't this the number one person among the younger generation in Broken Rock City? To be able to obtain 4th place with your initial grade 3 mental energy, you've made me look at you in a new light. I originally thought that you would be ranked outside of the top 5. Su Qi, who was standing beside Su Yang, raised her pretty face and slightly curled her cherry lips as she sneered. Xuanai coldly glanced at Su Qi, who was practically looking down at her. She did not refute, but instead quietly found a green stone platform and silently observed the materials on it. However, her tightly clenched hands revealed that Xuanai's current state of mind was not as calm as she appeared on the surface. Seeing that Xuanai was unmoved, Su Qi also lost interest in continuing to ridicule her. She rolled her eyes and placed her attention on the green stone platform. Sigh. Our Broken Rock City's young arcanists are indeed inferior to Anding City and Yeyang City. Among the top 3, Yeyang City has 1 place, and Anding City has 2. Ouyang Yuntu looked at the light screen at the top of the golden platform and sighed in a somewhat upset manner. A bitter smile also surfaced on Master Ku Ya's face as he said, "It's already not easy for Xuanai to obtain 4th place. It's a little difficult to ask her to enter the top 3. Qiu Chou only sat in his seat in silence. No one knew what the number 1 person in Broken Rock City was thinking. Dong. 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 2/3 of an incense stick's time had passed since Xuanai reached the peak. In the remaining 1/3 of an incense stick's time, arcanists successively arrived at the peak. The loud and clear sound of the bell continuously resounded in the training field, lingering in the air. Time also slowly passed along with the unceasing sound of the bell. There's not much time left. Why hasn't Zhuowen reached the peak yet? At this moment, Master Karaki could no longer remain calm. His gaze locked onto the figure on the 9,000th step. That figure was Zhuowen. There are still 1,000 steps left. There's only 10 breaths left. It looks like Zhuowen won't have the chance to reach the peak. Beside him, Xianling stole a glance at the incense stick nearby and realized that there was only a little bit left. She could not help but helplessly shake her head. New names were constantly being refreshed on the light screen at the peak. Soon, the number of names reached 99. There was only 1 spot left, and there was not much time left. There was only about 10 breaths left. Because Qiu Chou had brought Zhuowen with him at the beginning, many people had placed a certain amount of attention on the late Zhuowen. Now that everyone realized that there were only 10 breaths left, and there were still hundreds of steps above Zhuowen, many people could not help but shake their heads and sigh. This kid is really unlucky. If he wasn't late, he might have been able to reach the peak within the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. But now, it's impossible. In the VIP seats, Ouyang Yuntu stared at Zhuowen, who was still climbing, and could not help but shake his head and sigh. Even Master Ku Ya said regretfully, Zhuowen's talent is really good. Just now, from his aura, his mental energy actually made a breakthrough and reached perfect 2nd grade. With this kind of strength, he should have been able to reach the top of the golden stage within the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. It's a pity that he missed too much time because he was late. Qiu Chou frowned slightly. He always felt that Zhuowen was not ordinary. In his opinion, even if Zhuowen missed some time, he should still be able to reach the peak on time. There's not much time left. At my current speed, I'm afraid there's no hope of reaching the peak. On the steps, Zhuowen looked at the incense burner that had already burned to the bottom and frowned. Then, he helplessly muttered to himself, I can only rely on the thunder snake wings. Originally, I didn't want to display this thing, but now, I have no choice. With a sigh, Zhuowen formed a seal with his hands. Immediately, endless lightning surged out from his back. Subsequently, a pair of 10-meter-long lightning python wings grew out from his back. Chapter 277. Hanging by a thread boom. Like a stone that caused 1,000 ripples, the spectators in the training grounds all stared in disbelief at Zhuowen, whose back had suddenly erupted with a pair of lightning snake wings. For a moment, the entire training grounds were in an uproar. No one had expected that the speed of the youth in front of them would suddenly increase. Moreover, the increase in speed was so inconceivable that it was even faster than Su Yang's peak speed. So fast. This little guy actually still had a trick up his sleeve. Chiu Chou's eyes suddenly lit up and a smile appeared on his originally serious face. Even Ouyang Yuntu and Master Ku Yae's eyes couldn't help but light up. Zhuowen's sudden burst of speed had stunned even the two of them. Master Ku Yae's eyes were quite sharp. He quickly calmed down and analyzed with a frown, I didn't expect Zhuowen to still have a trick up his sleeve. Although his speed has increased by quite a bit, there are only less than 10 breaths left. There are still many steps left. It will still be quite difficult for him to reach the top in time. Ouyang Yuntu and Chiu Chou frowned slightly when they heard this. The two of them were ultimate Emperor realm experts. Their grasp of time and space was not something an ordinary person could compare to. Although Zhuowen's speed was indeed quite astonishing, the time he had was still too short. Is this little guy really going to be eliminated in the first round? The light in Chiu Chou's eyes slowly dimmed as he muttered to himself with a frown. Master Hua Yun and Master Han Yun, who were sitting at the back, also looked at each other with a trace of astonishment in their eyes. They also didn't expect that a seemingly unremarkable youth would be able to explode with such speed at the last moment. This kid is a little strange. Is that pair of lightning wings on his back some kind of secret technique? How can it increase his speed by so much? Master Hua Yun's gaze focused on the figure that was constantly flying upwards as he spoke with some doubt. It should be a kind of secret technique. Moreover, this kind of secret technique shouldn't be able to last for long. Otherwise, this brat would have used it at the very beginning instead of dragging it out until now. Master Han Yun nodded slightly and said with a faint smile. Their guesses were indeed reasonable. However, Zhuowen's thunder snake wings wasn't a secret technique. It was a cultivation technique transformed from the wind thunder sacred symbol. Zhuowen could use the thunder snake wings for as long as he wanted. The reason why Zhuowen only used the thunder snake wings at the last moment was naturally to make it look like a secret technique that couldn't be maintained for long. After all, the wind lightning sacred talisman was a supreme treasure of heaven and earth. There was no guarantee that someone would recognize it. Thus, Zhuowen had no choice but to be cautious. If it weren't for this layer of concern, Zhuowen would have long since entered the top 10 if he had activated the lightning snake wings. However, the time now is too short. With this brat's current speed, it's obviously impossible for him to reach the top of the Golden Word Summit in the last 10 breaths. Master Hua Yun sneered. However, the mocking smile on Grandmaster Hua Yun's face did not last for long before it instantly froze. This was because the figure on the Golden Word Peak had actually increased his speed in an unimaginable manner. His speed had already reached an unimaginable level, where it was as fast as lightning. This brat can actually increase his speed. How is this possible? This speed has already far exceeded Su Yang's peak speed. Master Hua Yun couldn't help but pinch the handle beside his hand. His eyes slightly bulged as he involuntarily exclaimed in a low voice. Master Han Yun also couldn't remain calm at this moment. His eyes coldly stared at the slender figure on the Golden Word Summit that had increased his speed once again. At this moment, Zhuowen's face was quite ferocious. On his back, in addition to the pair of lightning snake wings, there was an even larger pair of lightning wings that appeared. This pair of lightning wings was below the lightning snake wings. When it extended, it was at least 5 feet long. On this pair of lightning wings, there were countless dragons that appeared. Sounds similar to the roars of dragons were constantly emitted. It was actually the lightning serpent wings that Zhuowen had just cultivated not long ago. However, this pair of lightning serpent wings was obviously much dimmer than the lightning snake wings. It even seemed a little incomplete. After all, Zhuowen hadn't obtained the lightning serpent wings for long and had yet to fully comprehend it. Naturally, it was quite strenuous for him to display it now. Although the lightning flood dragon wings were not complete, its effect was still quite heaven-defying. His speed had actually increased by several times. At this moment, he had crossed nearly 100 steps in a single breath. His speed was so fast that it was as if there was an afterimage of Zhuowen on every step, causing quite a few people in the audience to be dazzled. They could not tell who was the real body. At this moment, The 99 Arcanists who were waiting at the top of the Golden Word Summit had already become a little impatient. When they realized that there were less than 10 breaths left, they all subconsciously thought that the 100th Arcanist obviously couldn't make it in time. Su Yang, who had been standing on the platform, suddenly stepped forward and stared at a light figure under the light screen at the top. This light figure looked like Master Ku Ya. It was a clone that Master Ku Ya had created using his mind power. It was mainly used to judge this assessment. Master Ku Ya. There are less than 5 breaths left. The last place obviously can't make it in time. We can now announce the start of the second round of assessment. As soon as Su Yang's words came out, it also attracted the attention of the other Arcanists present. They all focused their attention on this light figure and no one raised any objections. Obviously, they had already agreed with Su Yang's proposal. The rules were set by our Broken Rock City's Arcane Guild. It's not something that you can change just because you want to. Since there are still 5 breaths of time, we will have to continue waiting. Perhaps, the 100th ranked disciple might really arrive at the last moment. A clear voice sounded. Xuanai glanced at Su Yang and spoke in an indifferent voice. 5 breaths is too short. It's almost over in the blink of an eye. Do you really think that anyone can make it to the summit in such a short time? Just now, I saw the person closest to the summit, but he was still hundreds of steps away from the summit. Even I would need at least 30 breaths of time to reach such a distance. Otherwise, it would be impossible. It's just a waste of time now. Su Yang raised his head arrogantly and sneered with disdain at the corner of his mouth. Rumble. Just as Su Yang's words came out, a loud sound like countless lightning flashes and thunder suddenly swept over. All the Arcanists on the platform were alarmed by this loud sound and turned their heads to look. They saw a slender figure with 4 lightning wings on his back. His entire body was almost enveloped in endless thunderbolts. Like a falling meteor, he suddenly appeared in everyone's line of sight. Then, he fiercely crashed into the corner of the platform. It was as if a mystic thunder had fallen from the 9th heaven. When he landed on the platform, the huge force almost cracked the ground within 100 feet around him. Countless gravel accompanied by air waves suddenly flew out. Some of the Arcanists who were close to him were immediately thrown into a panic and dodged. I should have made it in time, right? A clear and melodious voice was slowly transmitted over. Soon after, a tall and slender figure appeared in front of everyone. The last one to arrive was naturally Zhuo Wen. The time just stopped at the last breath. Congratulations, you've just reached the requirement. You've passed the first stage. The light figure revealed a rare smile and said with a smile. Su Yang narrowed his eyes and his face was a little ugly. Just now, he had solemnly said that no one could reach the peak in the last 5 breaths. Now, in the blink of an eye, Zhuowen had descended from the sky. This was simply a slap in the face. Moreover, Su Yang's heart was filled with doubts as he looked at Zhuowen who had suddenly arrived. He remembered that the Zhuowen in front of him was the young man who had been late for a long time. Originally, he thought that the young man in front of him had missed too much time and would not be able to reach the peak in time. But now, he had abruptly appeared in front of him. This made the arrogant Su Yang shocked and angry. At the same time, his heart was full of confusion. He could not understand how the young man in front of him, whose mental strength was only at the level of complete level 2, managed to catch up and reach the top 100 with such strength when he was so far behind. Similarly, Xuanai was also puzzled. At this moment, Xuanai's cold eyes were filled with inexplicable surprise. Her cherry lips were slightly open as she looked at the young man who had arrived at the last moment. This Zhuowen clearly lagged behind by a lot at the beginning. How did he manage to enter the top 100? If I were in his situation, it would be difficult to even enter the top 100. Although she was puzzled, Xuanai did not pay too much attention to Zhuowen. After all, Zhuowen's mental energy had not even reached the 3rd grade and was not a threat to her. Her attention was mainly on Su Yang, Su Qi, and Zhu Yi, the 3 advanced 3rd grade Arcanists. After all, these 3 people were the strong opponents she had to face this time. Brother Zhuowen, you're really something. You actually managed to make it at the last moment. Your luck is really enviable. Not long after Zhuoan arrived at the peak, a familiar figure came to Zhuoan's side and patted him on the shoulder with a laugh. Zhuoan turned his head and happened to see Ouyang Yatao looking at him with a smile. The corners of his mouth curled as he smiled faintly and said, "It's just luck. All 100 people are here, so the first test ends here. Now, let's begin the second test." The glowing figure under the light screen suddenly spoke. The attention of all the arcanists on the platform was also attracted by the glowing figure, and they all began to listen seriously. There are a total of 100 bluestone platforms on this platform. The materials for the seal-breaking crystal are placed on each platform. The second test is very simple. As long as you can refine the seal-breaking crystal within the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, you will pass. The glowing figure's voice was loud and clear, and everyone heard it clearly. Zhu Yi, who had been silent all this time, suddenly cupped his hands and said respectfully, "Sir, the seal-breaking crystal is a type of crystal that can break seals. I'm sure there must be a certain use for the seal-breaking crystal that you want us to refine in the second test." The glowing figure looked at Zhu Yi with approval and said faintly, "Your guess is quite correct. The seal-breaking crystal is useful in the third test. If you can't refine a high-grade seal-breaking crystal, then you will not be able to pass the third test." Chapter 278. The Soul Incantation Tower. Do you see that tower over there? It's called the Soul Incantation Tower. It's a special treasure that's completely composed of spiritual energy. This tower was built by the Arcanist ancestors of Broken Rock City after thousands of years of accumulation. It contains an enormous amount of mental strength that can effectively temper an Arcanist's mental strength and increase their perception by a lot. The silhouette waved his right hand and pointed at the Tower of Light in the distance. His words were filled with pride. Tempering spiritual energy and increasing perception? This Soul Incantation Tower is actually so miraculous. As soon as Master Ku Yae's silhouette spoke, it immediately caused quite a commotion on the platform. Many Arcanists were secretly shocked. Even Zhuoan's eyes flickered as he clicked his tongue. Everyone knew how difficult it was to increase an Arcanist's spiritual energy. They might be stuck for years, decades, or even their entire lives. This kind of bottleneck was even more difficult than a cultivator's bottleneck. As for the way to continue improving one's mental strength, it required a strong perception. The stronger one's perception was, the faster one's mental strength would improve. Correspondingly, one's cultivation speed would also be much faster. However, perception was innate and could not be changed. However, this so-called Soul Incantation Tower could actually increase one's perception. This naturally caused these Arcanists to be overjoyed. However, there's a powerful restriction outside the Soul Incantation Tower. This restriction is strong enough to withstand the full force attack of an Ultimate Emperor Realm expert. It's basically impossible for you to break through it. If you want to break through this restriction, you'll need a high-quality seal-shattering crystal. So, if you can't refine a high-quality seal-shattering crystal, then you won't have the chance to enter the Soul Incantation Tower. The silhouette paused when he reached this point. He scanned the crowd and continued, "The third trial is to break through the Soul Incantation Tower. There are 9 floors in the Soul Incantation Tower, and each floor has a corresponding spiritual energy pressure. The higher you go, the stronger the pressure. The Arcana Ceremony's final reward, the Grade 4 Origin Array, is placed on the 8th floor. If any of you reach the 8th floor first, you will be the winner of the Arcana Ceremony. The Grade 4 Origin Array will naturally belong to that person." When the silhouette mentioned the Grade 4 Origin Array, the breathing of the Arcanists on the platform quickened. Clearly, the ultimate goal of these Arcanists was this Grade 4 Origin Array. Even the arrogant siblings, Su Qi and Su Yang, revealed a trace of desire and greed on their faces. Those who were able to make it to the top of the gold stage were naturally elites amongst Arcanists. They had a thorough understanding of the might of a Grade 4 Origin formation. The celestial star formation that they were competing in this time was a genuine Grade 4 Origin formation. The fact that it could create such a small space out of thin air was enough to show how powerful a Grade 4 Origin formation was. If no one has any objections, The second test will begin now. The light figure glanced indifferently at the crowd below. After which, he waved his hand and directly said, "Whoosh." After the light figure finished speaking, the arcanists on the platform quickly chose their own platforms and began to refine the seal-breaking crystal. "Zhuoan, this little fellow, is truly astonishing. I never expected that he would be able to raise his speed to such an extent at the final juncture. In the last 10 breaths, he managed to cross several hundred steps and finally reach the top of the gold stage." In the VIP seats, Xianling slowly regained her senses and involuntarily exclaimed. Even Ouyang Shishire, who was beside Xianling and wanted to see Zhuoan make a fool of himself, still had a trace of shock in her beautiful eyes. She did not know how Zhuoan had done it. In the blink of an eye, Zhuoan had already appeared at the top of the gold stage. How is it that this fellow is always able to do things that others can't even imagine at the final juncture? Muttering in a low voice, Ouyang Shishire's expression became rather complicated. "Senior Qiu, the little fellow you brought is not simple. He actually crossed several hundred steps in 10 breaths. This speed is something that even the number 1 ranked Su Yang could not achieve. However, it's a pity that Zhuoan's mental energy cultivation is a little low. If he also had a 3rd-grade mental energy, I'm afraid that he would have the strength to contend with Su Yang and the others." Ouyang Yuntu's eyes flickered as he spoke to Qiu beside him with a hearty smile on his face. "It's still too early to make a conclusion. Although this little fellow Zhuoan looks ordinary, if you interact with him for a long time, you will discover that he is truly unfathomable. Sometimes, even this old man finds it difficult to see through this little fellow." Qiu narrowed his eyes. However, his words immediately shocked Ouyang Yuntu and Master Ku Ya, who were beside him. Is this child really so special? Even Senior Qiu cannot see through him? Ouyang Yuntu could no longer remain calm. Whether it was strength or prestige, Qiu in front of him was above him. He did not expect Qiu to have such a high evaluation of Zhuoan. This was truly beyond Ouyang Yuntu's expectations. Don't underestimate this little fellow. This old man has a feeling that this child is very likely to become the biggest dark horse in this arcana ceremony. A glint flashed in the depths of Qiu's eyes. "Dark horse? You guys are too good at deceiving yourselves. That little fellow's mental energy is only at perfect 2nd grade. Brother, I'm afraid you're overthinking things if he can become a dark horse with such strength." Suddenly, an untimely voice abruptly rang out in the VIP seats, causing Qiu and the others to involuntarily turn their heads to look. They just happened to see Master Huayun sitting at the back with a sneer on his face. "You think I'm overthinking things?" Qiu narrowed his eyes as his tone suddenly became low. "Isn't that so? Among the younger generation of your Broken Rock City, only Xuanai is barely passable. As for the little fellow named Zhuoan you mentioned, he's really too weak. Do you think such a weak little fellow can win the Arcana ceremony? Don't you see that our Nding cities Su Yang and Su Qi are both accomplished 3rd-grade arcanists? With Su Yang and Su Qi's existence, this little fellow can't win the championship." Master Huayun's face was full of mockery. "You actually dare to be so arrogant in front of me? Old dog, you're quite happy barking, aren't you?" Qiu's gaze was slightly cold. Then, the Yuan energy within his body exploded. Suddenly, the entire VIP seats fell into a sluggish state. Master Huayun was shocked to find that his entire body could not move. An extremely strong pressure was firmly pressing down on his body. Whoosh! Qiu's right hand suddenly squeezed. Master Huayun's body involuntarily leaned forward and fell at Qiu's feet like a dog eating shit. Naturally, Qiu would not be polite. He lifted his foot and ruthlessly stomped on Master Huayun's cheek. He indifferently said, "Old dog, try barking a few more times if you have the guts." This sudden turn of events caused the entire VIP area to become incomparably silent. Everyone was dumbfounded as they stared at Grandmaster Huayun, who was being stepped on by Qiu. They never imagined that Qiu would actually have the guts to directly attack without any hesitation. However, after the shock, these people's eyes flashed with a trace of joy. After all, they were all people of Broken Rock City. Naturally, They were very unhappy when they saw Master Hua Yun unscrupulously mocking the arcanists of Broken Rock City. Now that Cho Cho directly attacked, it immediately caused many people to cheer in their hearts. Do you know who I am? I'm the vice president of the Settlement City's Arcane Guild. Don't tell me you want to start a war between our two cities. Master Hua Yun immediately roared in anger. However, because his cheek was being stepped on by Cho Cho, his words were a little unclear. Hee. You're just a small character. The City Lord of Settlement City will not rashly start a war between two supercities because of you. Speaking of this, Cho Cho unceremoniously kicked Master Hua Yun's cheek, causing his cheek to immediately swell up. The City Lord of Settlement City is still that bastard Liu Fan. If it's still the same, as long as I, Cho Cho, go over and talk to him, that guy will still give me face. Cho Cho sneered. His movements were not slow as he ruthlessly kicked again, causing Master Hua Yun to grit his teeth and cry out in pain. Looking at Master Hua Yun, who was constantly being trampled by Cho Cho, Ouyang Yuntu and Master Ku Ya suddenly revealed a gloating smile. They knew Cho Cho's character better than anyone else. He simply did things his own way and did not stick to a pattern. Cho Cho was once an existence who even dared to kill the city lord of a supercity. From now on, you better watch your mouth. Otherwise, this old man doesn't mind directly kicking you out of the VIP seat. After a few more kicks, Cho Cho's right leg suddenly shot out and landed a kick on Grandmaster Hua Yun's chest. The enormous force immediately caused Grandmaster Hua Yun to fly backwards like a fallen leaf. In the end, Grandmaster Han Yun had to intervene to catch Grandmaster Hua Yun's miserable figure. Otherwise, he would definitely have fallen flat on his back. You! Master Hua Yun covered his extremely swollen cheek. His heart was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. Moreover, he noticed that many people in the seats were looking at him with mocking gazes. This caused Master Hua Yun's anger to reach a peak. Don't tell me that the kick just now wasn't heavy enough. Do you still want to kick me a few more times? Cho Cho coldly smiled as his eyes were filled with an icy intent. Hearing this, Master Hua Yun's expression could not help but turn sluggish. His face suddenly turned green. The strength of the person in front of him was simply beyond his expectations. Moreover, Cho Cho did things without any scruples. Therefore, under Cho Cho's glare, Master Hua Yun's imposing manner immediately weakened. Humph! Didn't you have a lot of confidence in Zhuowen and think that he will be the dark horse of this arcane ceremony? Why don't we have a bet? Master Hua Yun was really unwilling to back down like this. His eyes narrowed as he suddenly thought of an idea. Chapter 279. Chapter 279 The Comparison of Flames. Let's bet on the winner of this arcana ceremony. Didn't you think that Zhuowen would win? If Zhuowen wins the championship this time, then you lose. On the other hand, if my disciple Su Yang wins the championship, then I lose. What do you think? Do you dare to bet with me? Grandmaster Hua Yun stared at Cho Cho and coldly said. Interesting. What are the stakes then? Cho Cho's eyes flickered as he asked in an indifferent tone. Seeing that Cho Cho was slightly moved, Hua Yun sneered in his heart and said, the wager is a grade 4 origin array. If our Ending City loses, then this old man is willing to take out a grade 4 origin array. If you lose, then your Broken Rock City will have to take out another grade 4 origin array in addition to the one in the Spirit Curse Tower. What? A grade 4 origin array? When Master Ku Ya and Ouyang Yuntu heard this, they immediately turned pale with fright. A grade 4 origin array was not an ordinary item. It was a priceless treasure. It was already very difficult for Broken Rock City to take out a grade 4 origin array in this arcane ceremony. Now, they actually had to add another grade 4 origin array to the wager. This price was too high. Senior Chiu, you can't agree to this bet. Although Zhuowen seemed to be talented, his mental strength was only at level 2 perfection. If he wanted to defeat Su Yang, who was at level 3 advanced success, it would be as difficult as ascending to heaven. Besides Su Yang, Su Qi and Zhuowen are also third-grade arcana masters. Zhuowen's chances of winning are too slim. Master Ku Yae's face was filled with anxiety. In his opinion, although Zhuo Wen's talent was not bad, he was too young, and his strength was definitely not comparable to Su Yang's. If he rashly agreed to this bet, they would definitely lose. However, Qiu Chou shook his head slightly and said indifferently, "You guys are underestimating Zhuowen too much. This old man believes that this brat is not ordinary. Moreover, it is very likely that he will become the dark horse this time. Therefore, this old man will accept this bet." Once Qiu Chou said that, Master Hua Yun's face immediately revealed a pleased smile. However, that smile on his already swollen face was even uglier than crying. This old man has never been humiliated like this before. Since this old man isn't your match, then I'll use this bet to make you lose everything. Grandmaster Hua Yun coldly glanced at Qiu Chou as he thought to himself. On the other hand, Master Kuya and Ouyang Yuntu's faces were rather ugly. With Qiu Chou's strength and status, they really did not dare to disobey him at all. Although they were extremely displeased by Qiu Chou's sudden agreement, they could only swallow their anger. Sigh. Looks like I'll have to pay another grade 4 origin array. Master Kuya's expression turned even uglier when he thought about how their arcane guild would have to compensate for another grade 4 origin array after the arcane ceremony. From the beginning, he didn't think that Zhuowen had the strength and foundation to win the championship. He even felt that it was a little difficult for him to enter the top 10. On the Golden Peak stage, the light silhouette that Master Ku Yae manifested had a grave expression on his face. He could not help but shift his gaze to the stone platform at the corner of the platform. On the stone platform, a young man with a delicate and pretty face was staring at the formula in his hand as he pondered about how to refine this seal-breaking crystal. Is it really possible for this kid to defeat Su Yang? Even that girl Xuanai isn't confident. Can he do it? The light figure secretly shook his head and muttered bitterly. Boom. At this time, colorful flames suddenly appeared on the bluestone platform on the platform. Obviously, many arcanists had finished reading the recipe on the stone platform and were now starting to refine the origin crystal. Zhuowen wasn't in a hurry to start refining the origin crystal. Instead, he scanned the arcanists around him. He was surprised to find that most of the flames that the arcanists on the platform were using were only ordinary flames. This kind of ordinary flame was considered the lowest quality flame energy. Above ordinary flames was the human flame, which was the human flame. When Zhuowen advanced to the Nirvana stage, the Nirvana demonic flame that he subdued was a type of human flame. Above the human flame was the earth flame, which was the level of the 9 heavens thunder inferno and the 3000 azure lotus flame that Zhuowen possessed now. Above the earth flame was the heavenly flame. It was said that the heavenly flame's power had reached a shocking level. Moreover, it also possessed a certain level of intelligence. The powerful heavenly flame could even burn an ultimate emperor stage cultivator to ashes in an instant. Legend had it that there were even more powerful flames above the heavenly flame, but Zhuowen had never seen them before. However, he had heard from Xiao Hei that the more powerful flames above the heavenly flame had all gained sentience. Their intelligence was no different from a human's, and they could even cultivate and grow like human cultivators. Only a small number of arcanists possessed powerful human flames. These arcanists who possessed human flames naturally became the focus of the other arcanists. A ray of silver light that resembled moonlight suddenly flickered at the center of the platform. Then, a silver flame that resembled a bright crescent blossomed. That's the bright crescent forest flame. It's an extremely powerful human flame. It's ranked in the top 5 among all the human flames. I never thought that someone would possess such a powerful human flame. The moment the silver flame erupted, it completely attracted the attention of the other arcanists on the platform. For a moment, exclamations of surprise rose and fell. The arcanists who only possessed ordinary flames had envious looks in their eyes. The owner of the bright crescent forest flame was a tall woman with a cold expression. When Zhuowen's gaze landed on this slender woman, he could not help but be stunned. This was because this cold woman was Master Ku Yae's disciple, Xuanai. Xuanai's originally gloomy mood suddenly brightened up when she sensed the gazes directed at her. She lifted her jade-like neck slightly and could not help but focus her gaze on Su Yang, Ju Yi, and Su Qi. She knew that her main competitors were the three people in front of her. The others were not even worth mentioning in her eyes. As if sensing Xuanai's somewhat hostile gaze, the beautiful Su Qi curled her lips and coldly muttered, "What's so great about that? You're not the only one with a human flame." As she spoke, Su Qi stretched out her slender hand and moved her slender fingers rhythmically. With a hiss, 5 flames suddenly sprang out from her 5 fingers. What was surprising was that these 5 flames were shaped like autumn maple leaves. They had 4 corners and were blood-red in color. Hiss. It's actually the divine maple flame. This is a supreme-grade human flame. Its power is even above the bright crescent forest flame. It's a powerful flame that ranks in the top 3 among human flames. I never thought that I would be able to see such a flame. When the other arcanists focused their attention on the flames on Su Qi's 5 fingers, they could not help but gasp. They could not help but stare at the maple leaf-like flames in a daze. To arcanists, flames were like their limbs. Without the help of flames, it was impossible to refine crystals. The stronger the flame, the more nimble one's hands and feet would be. The speed and quality of refining crystals would greatly increase. There was no arcanist who did not want to possess an extremely powerful flame. Xuanai also saw the divine maple flame on Su Qi's fingers and her pretty face darkened. She originally thought that her bright crescent forest flame was extremely powerful among all human flames. She did not expect Su Qi to possess the even more famous divine maple flame. Ju Yi, let me take a look at your flames. I presume that with your identity as the #1 disciple in Yeyang City, your master wouldn't be stingy when it comes to flames. Su Qi no longer paid attention to Xuanai, who had an ugly expression not far away. Instead, she turned her head and looked provocatively at the silent Ju Yi. Ju Yi glanced indifferently at Su Qi and sneered. Your provocation is really childish. Since you want to see my flame, I might as well show it to you. With that, Ju Yi stomped his foot, and the area several meters under his feet turned into a sea of fire. Then, Ju Yi suddenly pinched the air with his right hand, and the surging flames in the sea of fire immediately revolved and condensed in his palm. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a 3-meter-long halberd. Clang! Ju Yi suddenly stood, and the halberd, which was taller than him, was immediately inserted into the ground, standing firmly in front of everyone. At the same time, a surge of heat immediately rushed over, causing the surrounding air to boil. Heavens! It's actually the well-deserved #1 human flame, the Skyfire halberd. I didn't expect Ju Yi to possess such a powerful human flame. It's really incredible. When the huge halberd, which was completely composed of flames, stood proudly in front of everyone, a trace of shock and sluggishness appeared on everyone's faces. The power of the Skyfire halberd was extremely powerful. It was said that its power was comparable to ordinary earth fire. Xuanai and Su Qi's beautiful eyes suddenly widened. They looked incredulously at Ju Yi, who was standing proudly, and the fire halberd beside him with its tip pointing to the sky. They could not help but fall into a daze for a moment. Obviously, the fame of the Skyfire halberd was too great, which was why the 2 girls had such an intense reaction. Even Su Yang, who had been calm and collected, could not help but frown slightly. Ju Yi did not take Su Qi's provocation seriously. Although Su Qi's mental strength was at the advanced 3rd level, she had just entered the advanced 3rd level not long ago. Her strength was not comparable to Ju Yi, who had entered the advanced 3rd level long ago. What Ju Yi really cared about was Su Qi's brother, Su Yang. Like him, Su Yang's mental strength had entered the advanced 3rd level long ago. He was probably already at the peak of the advanced 3rd level. Chapter 280. Shattering brother Ju Yi is indeed worthy of being the #1 person among the younger generation in Yeyang City's arcane guild. Although this Skyfire halberd is only a human fire, its powerful might is already comparable to an earth fire. Su Yang's expression was calm as he glanced at the Skyfire halberd beside Ju Yi and said indifferently, "Then what about brother Su Yang?" Ju Yi looked back at Su Yang with slight provocation as he asked coldly, My big brother is naturally not inferior to you. Although your skyfire halberd is the #1 human fire, my big brother has a genuine earth fire. His fire is of a much higher grade than yours. Su Qi pouted and rolled her eyes at Ju Yi as she sneered. As soon as Su Qi said this, the platform immediately fell into silence. Then, everyone looked at the indifferent Su Yang in disbelief. Earthfire was not so easy to subdue. Moreover, earthfire was extremely rare. This made it so that arcanists who could possess earthfire were as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. Su Yang was so young, but he already possessed the earthfire that many arcana masters could only dream of. This truly shocked everyone present. Su Yang helplessly rolled his eyes at his sister. He knew that after Su Qi's trembling, it was unlikely that he would be able to hide the earthfire in his body. Thus, he gently squeezed his right hand, and a ball of blue flames burst out from his palm. What was strange was that the green-blue flames burned fiercely. The smoke and fire that slowly drifted out were like stars that flickered endlessly. It was as if the flames in front of them had become a starry sky. It's actually the star flame. This is a genuine earthfire. Moreover, it's one of the more powerful types of earthfire. Gazing at the flames that flickered like stars in Su Yang's palm, the scene immediately erupted into a clamor. The sound spread out like thunder. Ju Yi's pupils shrank as he stared blankly at the star flame in Su Yang's hand. It took him a while to come back to his senses. His expression immediately became extremely ugly. Although the power of his skyfire halberd was no weaker than ordinary earthfire, that was only against ordinary earthfire. However, the star flame in Su Yang's hand was no ordinary earthfire. It was said that the star ignition flame was born at the peak closest to the stars. After thousands of years of condensing the power of the stars, it finally gave birth to the star ignition flame that burned endlessly like the stars. Among the many earthfires, the star ignition flame was quite famous, and its power was also in the upper tier. It could be said that the power of the star ignition flame was a level higher than Ju Yi's skyfire halberd. Among them, Xuanai was the most dejected. After seeing the flames of Su Qi, Ju Yi, and Su Yang, she suddenly realized how big the gap between her and the three of them was. Her cultivation was no match for the three of them, and even her origin flames were inferior to theirs. This feeling of defeat made Xuanai feel as if she had fallen into an ice cellar. The feeling of helplessness in her heart grew even stronger. Zhuowen, who was standing in the corner, narrowed his eyes as he stared closely at the star ignition flame in Su Yang's hand. A strange smile that no one noticed appeared on his delicate face. "Kid, isn't your 9 wheels burning heaven's formation lacking earthfire? There just so happens to be an earthfire right now. You have to make good use of it." Xiao Hei's unique sinister laughter suddenly rang out in his mind. His voice was filled with malicious intent. "It looks like the third earth fire has delivered itself to my doorstep. The might of the 9 wheels burning heaven's formation formed from 3 earth fires is probably enough to instantly kill an ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator. It might even be able to trap an ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator for a period of time. I, Zhuowen, must have this star ignition flame." As he muttered to himself, the smile on Zhuowen's face grew wider and wider. "It's not easy to make a move now. Once we enter the Spirit Curse Tower, you can do whatever you want. However, you have to be careful. That Su Yang is not weak. I'm afraid he won't be easy to deal with." Xiao Hei warned in a rather serious manner. "I know that," Zhuowen replied softly as he nodded slightly. His eyes narrowed. He could also sense that Su Yang was not simple. Among the 100 Arcana Masters, only the 4 of us possess earth fire above the mortal rank. The others basically only have earth fire that isn't that strong. Su Yang proudly raised his head and said indifferently as he felt the envious, jealous, and respectful gazes from all around him. That might not be the case. However, just as Su Yang finished speaking, a clear voice suddenly rang out. Then, with a hiss, another powerful flame burst out from the corner of the platform. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Everyone's gazes immediately turned towards the source of the flame. They saw a slender figure silently standing there with a strange black skull floating above his head. If one looked closely, they would see that the black skull was completely composed of black flames. This is also earth fire. What a strange earth fire, but the power it's displaying is so strong. A commotion suddenly broke out on the platform when they saw the strange black flames. Everyone stared at the black flames that had suddenly appeared with shock and uncertainty. They could sense that the black flames that had suddenly appeared were not any weaker than Xuanai's bright moon forest flames. Su Yang narrowed his eyes as he looked at the young man under the black skull. He coldly said, "So it is you. I did not expect that a mere perfect Tier 2 Arcana master like you would actually possess earth fire." The young man who had suddenly erupted with the black flames was Zhuowen. This black flame was the Nirvana demon flame that Zhuowen had not used for a long time. Although Zhuowen's body possessed two other types of earth fire, it was sufficient to use earth fire to refine this Tier 2 Yuan crystal, seal-breaking crystal. Using the earth fire was like using a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. Su Yang had a deep impression of Zhuowen. When the first hurdle was about to end and there were only 10 breaths of time left, he had confidently said that no one would be able to reach the peak in such a short period of time. However, Zhuowen had appeared in front of everyone like a slap to his face, causing him to make a mistake. Zhuowen completely ignored this arrogant Su Yang. Instead, he began to maneuver the Nirvana demon flame and began the first step of refining the Yuan crystal, refining one's soul. Su Yang's expression immediately became gloomy in the face of Zhuowen's disregard. A thread of killing intent was revealed deep within his eyes. He let out a cold snort and began to focus on the refinement of the seal-breaking crystal. Xuanai, who had been paying attention, had a complicated expression in her pretty eyes. She did not expect that Zhuowen, whom she did not pay any attention to from the beginning, actually possessed a kind of earth fire on his body. Moreover, from the looks of it, the strength of this earth fire was not weaker than her bright moon forest flame. There is no need to look around. Hurry up and begin refining the Yuan crystal. Time is not unlimited. The light figure suspended in the midair frowned slightly. He waved his hand and got the other Arcana masters on the platform to immediately calm down. They began to quietly refine the seal-breaking crystal. The flames on the platform surged violently in an instant. 5 different colors appeared, appearing extremely gorgeous and colorful. This was a mixture of colors formed from the interweaving of many different flame colors. Of course, the most dazzling flame among the many flames was Su Yang's star flame. The stars that occasionally appeared were able to attract the attention and eyes of many people. When a third of the time it took for an incense stick to burn had passed, Su Yang, who was standing at the very front, suddenly waved his sleeve. The dazzling star flame immediately dispersed, and a sparkling and translucent origin crystal suddenly appeared in his palm. "This, sir, I have already completed the refinement of the seal-breaking crystal." Su Yang nodded towards the light figure above. He raised the Yuan crystal in his hand and presented it in front of the light figure. Su Yang's action immediately attracted the gazes of the other Arcana masters on the platform. These gazes contained envy and jealousy. Looks like using the ground flame to refine the Yuan crystal is indeed twice the result with half the effort. This Su Yang is actually able to complete the refinement of the seal-breaking crystal so quickly. At this moment, Zhuowen had just completed the step of refining one's soul. His eyes narrowed as he sized up Su Yang, who was standing in front with an arrogant expression, and softly muttered, Since the refinement is completed, let's stand here and wait. After an incense stick's time has passed, the quality of the Yuan crystal will be tested by the collective members. If the quality is unable to reach the high grade, it will be directly eliminated." The light figure nodded slightly and spoke with a calm expression. Su Yang did not have any objections. He directly sat cross-legged by the side and closed his eyes to recuperate. He was confident that the quality of the seal-breaking crystal he had refined this time around would definitely reach the high grade. It might even surpass the high grade and reach the level of perfection. Time flew by quickly. Half an incense stick's time had already passed. The people on the stone platform had already completed the refinement process one after another. All of them sat cross-legged by the side like Su Yang and began to quietly wait for the remaining half an incense stick's time to pass. This included Ju Yi, Su Qi, and Xuanai. However, there were still over half of the Arcana Masters on the platform who were still refining the seal-breaking crystal. This included Zhuowen. We have finally reached the final step of the refinement process. At this moment, Zhuowen's right hand was holding the Nirvana demon flame. There was a cluster of viscous liquid above the black flame. This liquid was the yuan liquid that was formed from the combination of the medicinal ingredients and the soul of the primordial beast. As long as he used the cold aura to condense this yuan liquid into a solid state, it would become a yuan crystal. Zhuowen revealed a relaxed smile on his face. He activated the extreme cold frost within the ice saint symbol. At this moment, only this extreme cold frost was left within his body. The heaven terminus cold chi that he had collected in the past had been swallowed by this extreme cold frost. After all, the extreme cold frost was the overlord-level existence amongst the Earth-class cold auras. It was naturally extremely repulsive towards other cold auras. Therefore, after obtaining this extreme cold frost, Zhuowen could only watch as the heaven terminus cold chi within the ice saint symbol that he had painstakingly obtained was completely swallowed by this extreme cold frost. This yuan liquid is refined using a human flame. I wonder if there will be a conflict if I use the extreme cold frost to freeze this Earth-class cold aura of a higher grade. Zhuowen muttered to himself with some uncertainty in his mouth. He slowly drew out a thread of extreme cold frost and began to approach the viscous yuan liquid above the black flame. Kai. In an instant, the yuan liquid on Zhuowen's right hand, along with the black flame, was completely frozen. Zhuowen was involuntarily stunned when he saw this situation. He did not expect that just a thread of extreme cold frost would be able to completely freeze the Nirvana demon flame. Crack. Chapter 281. Full open fire on the platform. More than half of the Arcanists had already completed their refinement and were silently sitting on the platform. After all, these 100 Arcanists were selected from thousands of others and could definitely be considered as the elites of this Arcana ceremony. During the refinement process of the seal-breaking crystal, there would naturally not be any mistakes that would lead to failure. As for whether the quality of the seal-breaking crystal that they refined would be of high quality, that would depend on their level and performance. Crack. The sound of the yuan crystal shattering was very soft, but on this pin-drop platform, it was like the beating of a drum. Immediately, it attracted the attention of the Arcanists who had finished refining the yuan crystals and were sitting cross-legged on the ground. When everyone's gazes converged on the source of the sound, they were surprised to find that the unlucky one who had failed in refining was actually the young man who possessed the human fire, Zhuowen. Their surprised gazes revealed a gloating expression. What an unlucky fellow. What's the use of having the human fire if you don't have the strength? That would instead be a waste of a treasure like the human fire. Su Qi's pretty face immediately revealed a trace of ridicule as she unceremoniously mocked. Beside her, Su Yang only casually glanced at Zhuowen and no longer paid attention to him. Although Zhuowen's previous performances had moved him, it was only SOSO. To him, the gap between him and Zhuowen was as wide as a chasm. With his strength, there was simply no need for him to bother with the weak. Zhu Yi, who had been silent all this while, cast a side glance at Zhuowen in a somewhat thought-provoking manner. He sneered and no longer paid attention to him. To him, his main opponent was Su Yang and Zhuowen was just a small character. On the contrary, Xuanai, who disliked Zhuowen in the beginning, only sighed. After all, Zhuowen represented their Broken Rock City this time. Even if she did not like Zhuowen, she still hoped that Zhuowen could bring glory to Broken Rock City. However, from her point of view, this idea of hers had become too unrealistic. The people in the VIP seats who had been paying attention to the Arcana ceremony all let out a sigh after discovering that Zhuowen had actually failed in refining. Originally, Zhuowen's stunning performance in the first round and his use of the human fire in the second round had caused many people in the VIP seats to be quite optimistic about this young man. However, with the failure of the refinement, this optimism was replaced by disappointment. He failed. Master Ku Ya's face suddenly revealed a trace of bitterness as he muttered with a somewhat absent-minded gaze. Once Zhuowen failed, It was destined that the bet between Qiu Qiu and Master Huayun would end prematurely. Their Broken Rock City's Arcana Guild would undoubtedly have lost. Master Ku Ya even wanted to cry when he thought of having to pay the price of a Grade 4 Origin array. There were only a few Grade 4 Origin arrays in their Arcana Guild. Now that they had to take out 2 of them at once, it was simply like digging a piece of meat out of their heart. Qiu Qiu frowned slightly. He also did not expect that Zhuowen would actually fail in the refining of the seal crystal fragment in the second round. This was something he did not expect. The result of the bet is already very obvious. This Zhuowen has been eliminated prematurely. You have lost. Hihi, I'm afraid that your Broken Rock City will have to hand over another Grade 4 Origin array. Haha. Master Huayun's face was full of pride and he could not help but laugh out loud. Old dog, you're laughing very happily. Do you feel like you're asking for a beating? Qiu Qiu's hawk-like sharp eyes stared coldly at Master Huayun, causing the latter's smile to freeze. He was so embarrassed that he did not dare to laugh again. Obviously, the memory of Qiu Qiu's vicious beating just now was still fresh in his mind. The time it takes for an incense stick to burn hasn't passed yet. That means that Zhuowen still has a chance. Old dog, you're making a conclusion too early. Qiu Qiu coldly snorted and said somewhat irritably. Sigh. There's only a third of an incense stick left. It's impossible to finish refining the seal crystal fragment in such a short amount of time. Master Ku Ya's face was ashen at this time as he smiled bitterly. No one knows what the result will be until the last moment. Let's continue watching. Maybe Zhuowen can create a miracle. Qiu Qiu narrowed his eyes and said coldly. Although Master Huayun, who was sitting in the back row, did not dare to say anything, his face was full of ridicule. In his opinion, Qiu Qiu's behavior was simply self-deception. On the bluestone platform, Zhuowen looked at the shattered crystal in his hand with a bitter smile. He could not help but mutter, it seems that the yuan liquid refined with human fire must be refined with human-level cold qi. Otherwise, the two extreme energies will inevitably become extremely unbalanced, causing the refined yuan crystal to shatter. At this point, Zhuowen turned his head and glanced at the incense burner not far away. He found that there was only a third of the incense stick left. He took a deep breath and muttered to himself, it seems that it's impossible to refine the seal crystal fragment in such a short amount of time with only the perfect second-level mental strength. It's necessary to raise my mental strength to the initial third level. I also need to use earth fire. Otherwise, it will be difficult to suppress the extreme cold. In the beginning, in order to not attract too much attention, Zhuowen's advanced third-level mental strength was suppressed to the perfect second level. Now, he had no choice but to raise his mental strength to the initial third level. Thinking of this, Zhuowen picked up another yuan nucleus on the bluestone platform. There were 3 sets of raw materials for the seal crystal fragment on the bluestone platform. After Zhuowen failed the first time, he naturally had a second chance. When Zhuowen picked up the yuan nucleus again, it immediately caused the platform to burst into laughter. There was only a third of an incense stick left. To refine the seal crystal fragment in such a short amount of time, perhaps only Su Yang, whose mental strength had reached the advanced third level and who also had earth fire in his hands, could do it. Does this kid still want to struggle before death? Only my big brother can refine the seal crystal fragment in such a short amount of time. Does this kid really think that with his perfect second-level mental strength and that impressive-looking but useless black flame, he can really complete the refinement in such a short amount of time? Su Qi's pretty face sneered. Xuanai could not bear to listen to this. After all, Zhuowen was an arcanist from Broken Rock City. Su Qi's ridicule immediately made Xuanai feel very uncomfortable in her heart. She then said coldly, "Can you shut up? Zhuowen didn't provoke you, so why do you have to hold on to his shortcomings and not let go? Oh, I just said a few words about that trash, and you, the so-called genius of Broken Rock City, jumped out to defend him? Why don't you take a look at yourself? Your strength is inferior to mine, and even your origin fire is inferior to mine. What right do you have to criticize me?" Su Qi's gaze turned to Xuanai, and her tone became even more arrogant and savage. You. Xuanai was so angry that her pretty face flushed red. Just as she was about to retort, a tidal wave of mental energy immediately spread across the entire platform. What powerful mental energy! This mental energy is no longer weaker than mine. It has also reached the level of initial grade 3. Who is it? Xuanai tilted her head slightly and looked at the source of the mental energy. A figure with a focused expression suddenly appeared in her eyes. It's him. Zhuowen. Su Qi's attention was also attracted by the sudden appearance of the mental energy. When she realized that the person who had released this powerful mental energy was actually Zhuowen, she could not help but be stunned. It's actually initial grade 3 mental energy. This guy has been hiding his strength from the beginning. Su Qi was somewhat bewildered as she looked at the figure who was focused on the yuan nucleus in his hand. She could not help but exclaim. However, this trace of astonishment only lasted for a moment. Su Qi once again sneered and said, "So what if he has initial grade 3 mental energy? Even I cannot complete the seal crystal fragment in such a short amount of time, let alone this guy." Kai. The moment Su Qi's words left her mouth, the focused Zhuowen suddenly moved. His foot suddenly stomped on the ground. Soon after, an endless amount of lightning and flames entwined around it shot out from his back. Lightning and fire corresponded to each other, just like a couple dancing a dance. This is the earthly fire 9 heavens thunder flame. The smile on Su Qi's pretty face instantly froze when she saw the lightning and fire shooting out from Zhuowen's back. Soon after, she cried out in disbelief. The Arcana masters on the platform, whose faces were originally filled with sneers, were now slightly agape. They stared blankly at the figure on the nearby stone platform, who was completely surrounded by the 9 heavens thunder flame. For a time, the platform was completely silent. After seeing the 9 heavens thunder flame, the originally calm and collected Su Yang's hands trembled. His face was no longer calm as he stared straight at the 9 heavens thunder flame on the surface of Zhuowen's body. His pupils had shrunk to the size of needles. The power of the 9 heavens thunder flame was not inferior to his star flame. In fact, it was even stronger than his star flame. He did not expect that the youth Zhuowen, whom he had always overlooked, would not only erupt with initial grade 3 mental energy at the last moment, but also use an earthly fire like the 9 heavens thunder flame. At this moment, Zhuowen's expression was extremely focused. His initial grade 3 mental energy poured out and poured into the yuan nucleus in his hand. His fingers moved nimbly, and the 9 heavens thunder flame swept out with his movements. It actually turned into a palm and swept up all the supplementary materials on the stone platform. The scorching temperature continuously refined the supplementary materials, turning them into liquid. While urging his mental energy to refine his soul, he also controlled the 9 heavens thunder flame to refine the supplementary materials. Who would have thought that Zhuowen would actually multitask, carrying out the first step of refining his soul and the second step of extracting his soul at the same time? Multitasking, refining his soul and extracting his soul at the same time. At this moment, everyone who was paying attention to Zhuowen was stunned. Refining a yuan crystal was extremely dangerous. It required a careful and meticulous process. Step by step, it had to be carried out strictly. Otherwise, the medicine would be destroyed and the person involved would die. The gains would not make up for the losses. But now, Zhuowen had broken the conventional pattern. Not only did he not do it step by step, but he also carried out the most dangerous step of refining his soul and the most difficult step of extracting his soul at the same time. This was something that no one had ever heard or seen before. It was a refining method that no one had ever seen before. But now, it was right in front of everyone's eyes. Chapter 282. Refining complete. On the top platform of the Golden Summit stage, the intense clamor and uproar suddenly attracted the attention of everyone in the VIP seats. Lower grade 3? Zhuowen actually has mental power at the lower grade 3. I didn't expect this kid to have been hiding his strength all this time. Since the silhouette on the Golden Summit stage was Master Kuya's doppelganger, he couldn't help but exclaim in surprise after seeing Zhuowen's mental power at the lower grade 3. Hearing this, Qiu Qiu's eyes suddenly lit up and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He also didn't expect Zhuowen to have such a trick up his sleeve. Even he didn't expect Zhuowen to have been hiding his strength all this time. Master Hue Yun, who was originally confident of victory, suddenly froze on his face. When he felt the sudden burst of mental power on the Golden Summit stage, he couldn't help but be bewildered as he muttered to himself, "This kid actually had such a trick up his sleeve. This is really beyond my expectations." However, even if he has mental power at the lower grade 3, I'm afraid it's very difficult to refine the seal-breaking crystal in such a short period of time. However, before Master Hue Yun could finish his words, Master Kuya's voice sounded again. This time, the surprise in his voice was even stronger. Earthfire. 9 Heavens Thunder Inferno? Zhuowen actually has such a powerful earthfire as the 9 Heavens Thunder Inferno in his body. This is really unbelievable. Master Hue Yun's face twitched and his eyes suddenly became a little stiff. His lips trembled as he said, "It's actually an earthfire? Zhuowen actually has an earthfire in his body?" Even the star flame on Su Yang's body was painstakingly obtained by our arcane guild. This guy actually has a 9 Heavens Thunder Inferno that's not weaker than the star flame? However, before the shock in Master Hue Yun's heart faded, Master Kuya's unique voice once again sounded in the VIP seats. At this time, his voice carried a trace of horror as if he had seen a ghost. Mother **Ka, Zhuowen actually performed soul refining and soul extraction at the same time and didn't fail. This is too unbelievable. Bang! After hearing Master Kuya's last sentence, Master Hue Yun was so shocked that he used too much strength in his right hand and crushed the handle beside him. He immediately stood up and stared at the focused young man at the top of the gold summit. When he saw the young man's figure, boundless spiritual energy erupted from his entire body. His body was even enveloped by the 9 Heavens Thunder blazing flame, which was a combination of thunder and fire. What was even more unbelievable was that the young man's hands were like flowing water. One of his hands was controlling the soul refining technique, while the other was controlling the soul extraction technique with the 9 Heavens Thunder blazing flame. The two major steps of refining the crystal were being carried out by the young man at the same time. Furthermore, there were no signs of failure at all. Looking at the somewhat inconceivable scene at the peak of the mountain, Grandmaster Hue Yun's pupils shrank once again, directly shrinking to the size of a needle. At this moment, his slightly trembling lips had already uncontrollably widened. Sizzle. At this moment, Zhuowen had completely entered a selfless state. From his arms to his fingers, from his mental energy to the 9 Heavens Thunder blazing flame, everything was as nimble as flowing water as they continued in an orderly manner. Under this selfless state, the soul refinement and soul extraction between his hands were actually completed in an instant. Boom. At this moment, a glint flashed across Zhuowen's eyes. His right palm suddenly slammed onto the green stone platform, causing the yuan core in his palm to instantly crack open inch by inch. A monstrous bestial roar suddenly spread out, and a small and exquisite beast spirit appeared in the palm of his right hand. At the same time, Zhuowen's left hand was not slow at all. Like passing through flowers and leaves, his left hand reached into the core of the 9 Heavens Thunder blazing flame. Following which, his hand clenched, and the ball of viscous liquid in the core of the flame was held in his palm. The soul refinement and soul extraction were actually completed at the same time. At this moment, there was only a little bit of incense left on the incense burner. There was not much time left. Narrowing his eyes, Zhuowen tossed both his hands. The beast spirit and the medicinal liquid simultaneously flew into the air. Zhuowen gently opened his right arm, and a deep blue cold air suddenly poured out. In an instant, it wrapped around the beast spirit and the medicinal liquid. The beast spirit and the medicinal liquid began to fuse and solidify within the extreme cold air. Dong. The loud and clear sound of a bell gradually rose in the entire training grounds, resounding in every corner. The glowing figure glanced at the lonely figure on the green stone platform, sighed, and shouted, "Time's up." Whoosh. At the same time, Zhuowen's feet pushed off the ground, and like a swallow, he leaped into the cold air in the air. His right hand reached out, and he pulled out a sparkling and translucent yuan crystal. At the last moment, Zhuowen had finally finished refining the seal-breaking crystal. Phew. It's really daunting but not dangerous. This little guy really hid his strength well. Not only does he have initial grade 3 mental energy, but he also has an earth fire, the 9 heavens thunder blazing flame, in his body. What's even more unbelievable is that this little guy is too courageous. He actually dared to perform both the soul refinement and soul extraction at the same time. In the VIP seats, Master Ku Ya gently sighed, and said with a smile on his face. He didn't want Zhuowen to lose just like that. If Zhuowen lost just like that, he was afraid that Qiu Chou and Master Huayun would lose the bet, and the price of losing would naturally be the Arcane Guild compensating Qiu Chou with a grade 4 origin array. This kind of loss was simply unbearable. Ouyang Yuntu slightly nodded, and his eyes were filled with amazement. He finally understood why Qiu Chou admired the ordinary young man, Zhuowen. Huayun, it seems that Zhuowen isn't simple. The result of your bet with Qiu Chou is a little uncertain, isn't it? Master Han Yun, who was sitting next to Master Huayun, glanced sideways at Master Huayun, who had an ugly expression, and gloated. This kid has indeed exceeded this old man's expectations. However, in terms of mental energy, he's only at the initial 3rd grade, which is slightly inferior to Su Yang. In terms of origin source flames, Su Yang's star flame isn't inferior to this kid's 9 heavens thunder inferno. Therefore, the champion of this arcane ceremony will still belong to our Ending city. Master Huayun coldly snorted and said indifferently. In the Spirit Curse Tower, it's not a competition of origin source flames. It's a competition of mental energy and willpower. Ju Yi's strength isn't inferior to Su Yang's. Are you so confident that your Ending city's Su Yang will win? Master Han Yun was quite displeased with Master Huayun's attitude and coldly mocked. We'll know who's stronger and who's weaker when the Spirit Curse Tower is opened. Master Huayun didn't argue with Master Han Yun. Instead, a strange smile appeared on his face as he said indifferently. Compared to the attitude of the big shots in the VIP seats, the audience in the other seats were in an uproar. Zhuowen's performance just now was too dazzling and amazing. It made many people feel as if their blood was boiling. Master Karaki and Master Xianling, who were originally sitting in the more remote seats of the VIP seats, were the most shocked. Master Karaki wasn't too surprised as he already knew some of Zhuowen's trump cards. However, Zhuowen's amazing performance of multitasking left him dumbfounded and amazed. On the other hand, Xianling was so shocked that she couldn't close her mouth. After a long while, she recovered and looked at Master Karaki beside her and said, Karaki, no wonder you were so confident before the arcane ceremony. It turns out that your disciple's mental energy has already reached the initial 3rd grade. What a monster. Karaki, your luck is too good. Even your disciple is so much better than mine. Under the gazes of many people, Zhuowen's expression was calm. He slowly walked to a place and sat down cross-legged. He began to silently wait for the next action of the glowing figure. After the glowing figure glanced at Zhuowen, it pointed at the edge of the platform with its right hand and said in a voice full of vicissitudes, although seal-breaking crystal isn't very difficult for everyone, it isn't that easy to refine a seal-breaking crystal of high quality. In the corner, there is a stone pillar that is as tall as a person. It is used to test the quality of the crystal. As long as the crystal is of high quality, 6 of the 10 red crystals on the pillar will light up. The higher the quality, the more red crystals will light up. If 10 of them light up, it means that the crystal is of perfect quality and the score is 10 points. As soon as the glowing figure finished speaking, everyone's gaze followed the direction of the glowing figure's finger. Sure enough, there was a stone pillar that was about 10 feet tall at the edge of the platform. There was a groove at the top of the stone pillar. It was obviously used to place the crystal. Above the groove were 10 red crystals, which should be used to test the quality of the crystal. Let's start according to the order of refining the crystal. Su Yang, you go first. The glowing figure spoke again. Su Yang raised his eyebrows and walked proudly towards the stone pillar. He then slowly placed the seal-breaking crystal in his hand into the groove of the stone pillar. In an instant, 9 of the red crystals above the groove lit up. The quality of the crystal refined by Su Yang this time was almost perfect. Such a result could not help but cause an uproar among many people on the platform. Not bad, just 1 point away from perfect quality. Su Yang, 9 points. Pass. The glowing figure looked at Su Yang in surprise and then spoke again. Next up were Ju Yi, Su Qi, and Xuanai. Ju Yi and Su Qi's crystal quality reached 8 points, while Xuanai's crystal quality reached 7 points. As time gradually passed, the arcanists on the platform placed their crystals into the stone pillar one by one. There were happy and sad expressions on their faces. In just an hour, the 100 arcanists had finished their tests. When the 99th arcanist saw that only 5 red crystals had lit up on the stone pillar, he gloomily took the crystals and left. Liu Yang, 5 points. Fail. Eliminated. Next up, Zhuowen. When the glowing figure called out Zhuowen's name, all the arcanists on the platform turned their heads and focused their gazes on the calm-looking young man. They really wanted to know if the seal-breaking crystal that the young man in front of them had refined at the last moment was of superior quality. Even Su Yang narrowed his eyes when he heard Zhuowen's name. He couldn't help but focus on Zhuowen. Chapter 283. The third stage. At this moment, Zhuowen's every move attracted the attention of almost everyone on the platform. Even the VIP seats were silent. Everyone was looking forward to seeing if the quality of the seal crystal that Zhuowen had hurriedly produced could reach a high grade. After all, Zhuowen's refinement technique on the platform just now was really too shocking. Refining the soul and extracting the soul were two completely unrelated steps, yet they were actually carried out by the youth before them at the same time. This extremely audacious refinement technique really shocked many people, but at the same time, it also aroused the suspicion of some people. In such a short period of time, with such a shocking refining method, just what level could the quality of the refined crystals reach? Bang! Taking large strides, Zhuowen arrived in front of the stone pillar. Without any hesitation, he directly pressed the seal crystal fragment in his hand into the groove at the top of the stone pillar. Under everyone's expectant gazes, the stone pillar suddenly trembled. Soon after, the 10 red yuan crystals in the groove actually completely lit up. The red light was as dense as blood. The red light emitted by the 10 red crystals suddenly condensed together at this moment. Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, it converged into a red pillar of light that was so thick that it would take a person to wrap their arms around it. It shot straight into the sky and dyed the sky within the training field blood red. 10 red crystals lit up at the same time. Perfect quality. The glowing figure's right hand trembled, and his body could not help but stagger. His eyes stared straight at the blood-red pillar that almost broke through the sky, and he could not help but exclaim loudly. All the arcanists on the platform raised their heads to look at the sky as disbelief filled their faces. They had never thought that Zhuowen, who had only used a third of an incense stick's worth of time to refine the soul and extract the soul at the same time, would be able to refine the seal-shattering crystal to a perfect level. Su Qi, whose face was originally full of ridicule, had long since been replaced by shock. Her beautiful eyes stared blankly at the blood-red pillar of light that shot straight into the sky, and she suddenly fell silent. Su Yang's face was still indifferent, but the tightly clenched fists under his sleeves exposed the turmoil in his heart. Ha ha! A perfect quality seal crystal. Zhuowen, this brat, is really good. In such a short period of time, he was actually able to refine a perfect quality origin crystal. This brat's talent is really terrifying. In the VIP seats, Qiu Qiu suddenly laughed loudly, his face full of joy. Meanwhile, Ouyang Yuntu and Master Kuya were also very excited. After all, Zhuowen was representing Broken Rock City in this Arcana ceremony. The more outstanding his performance was, the more glory they would feel. They didn't want the spotlight to be stolen by the arcanists from Nding City and Yeyang City. Are you kidding me? All 10 red crystals were lit up, and the quality was perfect. This Zhuowen. Master Hua Yun suddenly clenched his fists. The expression on his face could no longer conceal the shock in his heart. His eyes bulged as he stared at the blood-colored light pillar that pierced through the sky in the training field. In the end, he muttered to himself. Master Han Yun, who was standing beside him, couldn't remain calm either. The shock on his face was even greater than Master Hua Yun's. It was as if he had seen a ghost. Old dog Hua Yun, didn't you say at the beginning that Zhuoan would lose for sure? Now open your dog eyes and take a good look. Not only did this brat Zhuoan complete the refinement of the seal crystal in the last 1/3 of the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, but now the quality of the seal crystal he refined has reached a perfect level. Qiu Chou suddenly turned his head, looked at Master Hua Yun behind him with a mocking gaze, and laughed mockingly. Master Hua Yun was stunned when he heard Qiu Chou calling him an old dog. No matter how good his temper was, he couldn't stand Qiu Chou calling him such an insulting name in public. However, because he was afraid of Qiu Chou's strength, he could only swallow it down and didn't dare to say a word. Moreover, the quality of the seal crystal refined by Zhuoan had reached a perfect level. It was even better than his disciple Su Yang's. This was an indisputable fact, and he couldn't refute it. After thinking about it, he could only remain silent and sulk by himself. Looking at Master Hua Yun's unlucky appearance as if he had eaten a fly, Ouyang Yuntu and Master Ku Ya couldn't help but feel happy. Master Hua Yun relied on his 2 advanced grade 3 disciples to be extremely arrogant in the VIP seats. If it wasn't for Qiu Chou's sudden intervention, they might have been ruthlessly ridiculed by Master Hua Yun without daring to refute. The blood-colored light pillar that pierced through the sky disappeared in a flash. When the light pillar disappeared, Zhuoan reached out with his right hand and retrieved the seal crystal from the groove on the stone pillar. Then, he walked back to his original position with a calm expression. Zhuoan wasn't surprised by this result. After all, the seal crystal this time was refined with the help of the 9 heavens thunder blazing flame and extreme Arctic frost. In particular, extreme Arctic frost was the overlord of all the earth-grade cold energies. Zhuoan had already guessed that he would be able to refine a perfect level yuan crystal. A total of 60 people passed the second stage. The remaining 40 people were eliminated because the quality of their yuan crystals didn't reach a high level. The glowing figure scanned the people on the platform and said in a calm tone. After hearing this, Zhuoan noticed that many people in the group were dejected and had vexed expressions. Obviously, these people were the Arcana Masters whose yuan crystals didn't reach the standard. It's really difficult. Although I can refine a complete seal-breaking crystal, it's still a long way to go before it reaches the upper grade. Sigh. I'm really unlucky. The yuan crystal I refined was at the peak of the medium level. It was just a little bit away from reaching a high level. What a pity. Looks like I'm not fated to participate in this year's Arcana ceremony. At the same time, many people began to complain. For a moment, the platform was filled with people. Those who have been eliminated can't stay in the celestial star formation for long. I'll now teleport all of you out. The glowing figure completely ignored the complaining Arcana Masters on the platform. He waved his sleeve and 40 rays of starlight suddenly descended from the stars in the sky, enveloping the eliminated Arcana Masters. In the blink of an eye, the eliminated Arcana Masters disappeared from the platform amidst the starlight. After sending off the eliminated Arcana Masters, the glowing figure looked down at the crowd from the sky. His indifferent voice sounded again, "Congratulations everyone. Since you've all passed the second stage, I'll now announce the third stage. As I said before, the third stage is the Soul Curse Tower on the other side. The final reward is on the 8th level. Whoever reaches the 8th level first will be the final winner. If everyone understands the rules of the third stage, then the third stage will now begin. The seal in front of the Soul Curse Tower can be broken by using a seal crystal. You may enter the tower directly. Also, I'd like to remind everyone that the spiritual pressure inside the Soul Curse Tower is extremely terrifying. If you really can't endure it, it's best to act according to your strength." The glowing figure's words were like a bomb that ignited a wire, causing a huge commotion on the platform. The eyes of the remaining Arcana Masters on the platform were filled with anticipation and desire. After all, the Soul Curse Tower was indescribably beneficial to Arcana Masters. Even if they couldn't win, being able to cultivate inside would still bring them great benefits. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. For a moment, many of the Arcana Masters on the platform couldn't wait any longer. They activated the mental strength in their bodies and wrapped it around their bodies. Then, like arrows released from a bow, they shot toward the Soul Curse Tower in the distance. When the Arcana Master at the front was about to touch the seal of the Soul Curse Tower, he immediately raised the seal crystal in his hand and released the power of the crystal to his heart's content. Ripples immediately appeared on the seal, and then a hole as tall as a person appeared, allowing the Arcana Master to enter the other side of the seal. However, the hole only existed for a very short time. As soon as the Arcana Master passed through the seal, it disappeared. Obviously, this was set up to prevent Arcana Masters who relied on a seal crystal to take advantage of the situation. Su Yang, who was standing at the edge of the platform, glanced at the Soul Curse Tower in the distance. He suddenly turned around and stared at Zhuowen with narrowed eyes, coldly and arrogantly saying, "You're called Zhuowen, right? At such a young age, you already have the mental strength of an initial 3rd grade. At the same time, you also possess a powerful earth fire like the 9 Heavens Thunder Inferno Flame. I'm afraid you're the #1 person among the younger generation of the Broken Rock City's Arcane Guild. You're really scheming. You've been hiding your strength from the beginning. However, being able to refine a perfect seal crystal doesn't mean anything. Once we enter the Soul Curse Tower, I'll let you know that the gap between you and me is still very big." Xuanai, who was not far away, heard Su Yang's words. Her pretty face also turned deathly pale. Then, her cold and beautiful eyes stared at Zhuowen with a complicated expression. She finally knew why Zhuowen was able to face her with such a calm expression 5 days ago. It was because the young man in front of her was not weaker than her. Or rather, he was slightly stronger than her. Thinking of this, Xuanai's mouth revealed a self-mocking smile. "Oh, are you done? If you're done, then hurry up and get lost. Don't block my way," Zhuowen said lazily as he glanced indifferently at Su Yang, who felt so full of himself. Su Yang and Su Qi, who was beside him, could not help but be stunned when they heard this. They did not expect the young man in front of them to not give Su Yang any face. Instead, he directly scolded him. Su Qi's pretty face was filled with anger. She was about to step forward and teach this arrogant young man a lesson when she was stopped by Su Yang. At this moment, Su Yang narrowed his eyes and looked straight at Zhuowen. He coldly said, "I hope you can still be so arrogant after we enter the Soul Curse Tower. Little sister, let's go first." With that, Su Yang pulled Su Qi and rushed toward the Soul Curse Tower. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.